We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Obscure and Unscripted. We have some very special guests this evening. You're going to know them from A&E Storage Wars, Bargain Hunters, and Poker Player. We got Rene and Casey Nezhoda on the show. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We're already getting viewers coming in and saying hello. We got Kurt saying hello. Hey, Kurt, thanks for joining us. So can you guys delve into a little how Bargain Hunters Thrift Store began?
So I've been buying and selling basically my whole life since 11 years old. And eventually eBay became super popular. And before that time, we used to pick all the time and nobody was really into it.
And when he says we, he means he and his family because he was a kid.
Yeah, so like I've been resell. I mean, we started on eBay when it was only Beanie Babies. That's the only thing they sold at that time. That was like in the early 90s, I believe. I'm getting old, so I'm kind of blocking.
Yeah. So he means he and his family, his parents.
Yeah, way before I met Casey. So, and then eventually eBay became more popular, and I was used to do the term every housewife and husband used to do eBay on the side business. Everybody had an eBay business, and picking became extremely hard. I met Casey, was still picking at the time, and she was pretty amazed at the money we were making on eBay and stuff like this. And just the swap meet started drying up, and we used to go to the swap meet, and we used to buy from these guys that did storage auctions all the time. And these guys come with a truckload and like amazing stuff. I bought like gold detectors for $180, flipped it the same weekend for like $2,500. Vintage bows I bought from a guy who goes like, just give me $50 straight across. And they were all bear bows and stuff like this. I made like $10,000 on that deal. But then after a while, these guys started getting smart.
They started getting wise, going, hey, maybe he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, so all of a sudden they started putting out the apps and everybody's looking everything up on eBay. So we said, okay, you know what? If they're going to learn on what we do, which I give them credit. That's smart. It's, you always got to better yourself. So I said, let's just start going to storage auctions.
Actually, I think it was the other way around. I told Rene, I said, hey, we're strong, we're young. We might as well just start buying it ourselves. Like, we don't have to buy it from them. We can do it directly ourselves.
And then the very first storage unit I went to, the very first auction that I actually bought. So I've been there before in the past and seen it. And a lot of units are usually junky. So it looks like a lot of work. And I'm like, nah, I can just buy an item for $50 and sell it for $200. But then, so the first one when I actually bought, it was full of telecommunication equipment, which I used to deal with all the time. And I bought the unit for $850.
And the guys were like, we dropped it on him. He's so going to eat doo-doo.
Yeah, I sold the very next day $3,900 of phones alone. And we probably made like over 6 months, $10,000 in the unit. So after that, I got a truck and I was like, we're in the storage business.
Yeah. Well, and the guy started telling me, you can't do this. You don't have a truck. So then Rene is like, okay. So he went and got a truck the next week. Now you can't do this. You only have one truck. So then he got 2 trucks. Then he got 3 trucks.
It used to be very clicky. And if you're in the clique, especially local, sometimes you lay off for each other. Sometimes you try to work it out. And they used to tell me, it's like, well, you're not even a real buyer because you never spend $1,000 on a unit. This was like in the days way before the shows when like $1,000 was a lot on a unit. So, so I used to battle these guys all the time, which a lot of them became like some of my best friends now. So they said, I've never spent $1,000. Okay, I can respect it. You guys got the $1,000 club. So they open up the next 10 by 20 that's packed. And back then, no matter what a unit looks like, people kick it in with $20, and sometimes they get lucky. You buy it for $200-$300. Sometimes it might hit $1,000, and it's like, oh my God, that guy just spent $1,000. And so what I did just to mess with them, the auctioneer was Dan at the time. I'm like, hey Dan, I bid $1,000. Right when he said the comment. And everybody was just like, they thought I was full of it. But I actually ended up buying the unit. And I think, I don't remember exactly how that went, but I don't think anybody else bid against me. They wanted to see if I did it. So I bought the unit for $1,000, made a bunch of money on it. And then I started becoming friends with all the veterans and stuff like this. And we just worked it in. There's other stories I can tell. I mean, it goes way back. But then we were in a storage business, and it's like cocaine. Once you do it and you get that first score, you're hooked. I mean, I have more stuff than I ever have now. But I go to storageauctions.net all the time, and
yeah, he has a hoarding problem.
Yeah, I see what they're selling.
And just for the record, Rene's never done drugs.
No, I've never done drugs. Yes, just cheesecake. See how that worked out. I tried cheesecake and it just didn't work. I'm sorry, that was probably a way longer answer than you wanted. I'm going to let you go.
No worries. That's actually pretty awesome. So you said that it does get a little clicky. Has there ever been real aggression towards other people and like fists thrown?
Yeah, because it's a pissing contest. It's all these guys with this testosterone. They're all there trying to make money to feed their families.
Let me
and
answer
it
this.
gets really competitive.
Let me answer this different. It does get really competitive. I mean, you got to remember. Look, you have some people with knowledge, and you have some people with knowledge and money. And we open a unit up and we see $4,000. We all want to make that money. So I don't know how can I. I'm trying to answer this all politically correct. So there's clicks, you're friends with old comers and newcomers, and new people come in. Let's say you come in. San Diego is actually one of the toughest areas to buy. If you come from out of state because you want to buy in San Diego, we're not going to let you buy. I mean, I don't care. If that unit is $3,000, you can buy it for $4,500 if you want to. That's fine. And maybe you get lucky. You could get lucky, It just takes one or two items, but we're just not going to let you buy. And same thing with most of the California areas. Now, there used to be different areas in different surrounding states where people just spend less money and stuff, and they get mad when the Californians come out, but usually the Californians can spend a little bit more money because stuff just brings more money in California.
Yeah, we can sell it for more money.
That's nothing about one being better or worse than the other. It's just simple economics. So, and also store owners usually can spend a little bit more because, like, say, an average guy who buys a storage unit is full of nice women's clothing. Well, guess what? You'd be lucky to get 25 or 50 cents on a yard sale. With our store, the cheapest item starts at $3. And the one thing that we sell every day is clothing. And that's one thing that people come back every week to buy is clothing. And they don't buy one piece of clothing, but they'll buy 8 pieces of clothing for $38. To me, that's 100% profit because I don't bid on clothing with the rare exception of a whole store. Then there's other groups where, maybe 4 or 5 guys are from Armenia and they all became friends. So, like, they really work together. I had a couple of friends, and it's questionable. It's called brother-in-law at the auction. So if Dan were here, he could talk to you about that. But let's say we go to an auction, okay? And you and me are the big buyers. We both have big stores. And I know that you have 30 grand in your pocket. I have 30 grand in my pocket. And they're going to open up 4 killer units that are supposed to be killer. And then we look at everybody else in the crowd and we're like, okay, nobody else has over $2,000 there. Maybe if 2 or 3 guys pool the money, it's $4,000. But a lot of people don't do that because that gets really difficult when you don't know what you're buying. So we can say, hey, Joe, do you just want to run each other up on every unit? And, we'll pay $7,000, $8,000 a unit. Or do you want to buy the 4 units together? And at the end, we flip a coin. You pick one, I pick one, you pick one, I pick one. So that happens sometimes at an auction.
The auctioneer does not like that.
The auctioneer never. That probably kills me for telling that story. But then once you become to certain levels, so I mean, we're some of the biggest buyers out there, and there's about 4 or 5 other guys in San Diego that are really strong. When you have the money and something really good comes up, like my attitude usually is like, I don't want to make any deals. I'm just going to buy this, and it doesn't make a difference if I pay $2,000 or $6,000. I just want to buy it because if I know it's good, I just put up the money, and if I lose money, that's fine. I need a tax write-off anyway. So But especially in the earlier days, a lot of the lower buyers in the beginning. So there's a lot of units that go every day for $10, $25, $50. And so these guys will be like 6 of them buying all day together, buying up all those units, not running each other up. So instead of paying $150, they get them for $25. And then they just figure it out. That's flipping. That's technically illegal too. Super hard to prove. That's actually a law that says you're not supposed to make side deals at an auction.
Yeah, but it's called collusion.
Collusion, yeah, but that's almost impossible to prove. So
Give me a little bit of tricks of the trade.
Yeah, that's tricks of the trade. If Dan hears me talking about that, I'm sure he'd probably shoot me. But I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with Dan, so he knows I spend money and.
And if you're not the bidder driving up the price, you're the backup bidder. Yeah,
sometimes you're on the desk games, but do people get physical? I mean, I've seen people get physical before. That happened a little bit more after the show came out because it shows a little bit more aggression and stuff on the show. In real life, really simple. If you own a house and you punch me, my lawyers will talk to you tomorrow and we'll work out a good settlement. So that's what it comes down to. If I were to punch you, your lawyers would be very happy. So you just can't do that. You have to act like anywhere else in society, Now, is there every now and then a couple of idiots? Obviously, there was the fight on the show. That was 110% real. People always say that was fake. That was real, and a lot of lawyers were involved in that too. For me, lucky thing, I was way on the other side filming a side thing. So when it was my turn to talk to him, like, I didn't see nothing, didn't do nothing. You can check the footage. I was like 150 feet in another place. I came in at the very end and just broke it up. I know of one other fight. that happen in the storage business here. And I know of a couple of little times, sometimes people talk trash to each other. They get mad because somebody buys all the units and those guys just don't get units. So they get a little bit mad, but there's nothing you really can do. It's an auction, highest bidder takes it.
Well, it's interesting because I'm assuming that the show brought more people out to these auctions, and you just said that it's kind of cliquey and you're not going to let new people really buy things unless they're going to go above and beyond. So have you seen a large increase since the show still?
So I didn't say new people. I said out-of-towners.
Sorry.
A big difference. So if a big dealer from out of town comes with money and he wants to come in our areas, and then, look, if I let him buy a $5,000 unit for $1,500 just because I don't need stuff, what's going to happen? He's going to go back to Phoenix, tell all his friends, these guys in San Diego a week, and buy units cheap. And the next big auction run, you have 6 of those guys, and they just run up the price.
So it's just protecting your territory.
It's protecting territory. So, yeah, and if I come to your city and you let me buy $1,000 units for $200, I'll come every auction. Because I'll save $800 automatically on every unit. That makes up the moving costs.
So with some people or newbies, do they have a hard time also, or did you see an influx in newbies coming out to these auctions?
In the beginning of the show, yes. So a lot of newbies in the beginning. We used to go from like a crowded auction of 30 people. Now you have 200-300 people sometimes. Wow. A lot of them didn't know what they were doing. Like I literally had somebody next to me standing, and they were looking at a unit with like 4 boxes in and a wash and dry, and the wife said the wash and dry is $700, and they paid like $600 for the unit. I'm like, you can't just go to my store and buy the wash and dryer for $200, and we give you a 60-day guarantee, But okay, if it's $700. So, but those people come and go. They learn really quick. It's not a get rich quick scheme. And see, the key to make money in storage units, yes, if we find Star Wars, that's great. If we find 1950s comics, great. Anybody can sell that. But if you want to be successful in the long run and make money, this is the secret. Clothes, coffee makers, coffee pots, pots and pans, the everyday stuff. If you can turn that into good cash, not 25 cents quick yard sale cash, but good cash, then you'll be on top of the business. And sometimes you buy 20 units, it's just average household stuff. Or, you might have 40 boxes in there, and it's your books that you had from college, which can be a lot of money too. It's your pots and pans, your clothing, and then hopefully it's two boxes of your Superman collectibles. So you have to be able to turn everything into money. That's why the guys that have stores, especially big stores, just usually in any city you can tell. You can take me to any storage auction city, and I can find out after a few auctions who the big guys are, and I guarantee you 90% of the time they will have stores, retail stores, because turning everything into cash, that's the secret. And I even had guys come to me before. This was really funny. This guy stood next to me, and the show was already out, and he knew who we were and stuff. And he was like, "Don't worry, I'm only here for eBay stuff."
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, yeah, I got 20 grand in my pocket because I'm hoping to buy pots and pans. And if there's a unit full of Star Wars, I just don't want to mess with that. We all there for eBay stuff. We all want art. We all want high stuff, and we have the money to do it and the balls to do it.
And the knowledge.
And the knowledge. Yeah. So a lot of guys, I don't know if you watch my YouTube channel.
I do.
Okay. So did you see the
So
video?
our YouTube channel is Bargain Hunters Thrift, just in case.
Yes, if you know, Bargain Hunter Thrift. We actually got a really good story coming. Somebody just found $7.5 million in cash.
Yeah. $7.5 million in cash in a storage unit.
$500 unit. So this we're gonna break that story in our YouTube channel probably on Thursday evening.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a lot of people saying
it wasn't us. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, it wasn't us. If it wasn't us, we'd be doing this interview from the Caribbean right now, and I'll be sitting in my Speedo, sitting on my tie. Don't pick that. But so on that $22,000 unit, so that video has gotten, I think, like close to 500,000 hits. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's it's garbage. It's 80s stuff. It's 90s stuff. 70s stuff. $22,000. You're crazy." But see, they're thinking the wrong way. Yes, do I want to find a Mickey Mantle rookie? Of course, I want to find a Mickey Mantle rookie, and that's easy to sell. But in my store, there was like $100,000 items in there. So I'm investing $22,000 for $100,000 items, and they sell every day in my store. And yes, a collector might not be super crazy about those items, which some collectors are with smaller budgets or just buy cheaper stuff. Not every collector goes out and just buys a Mickey Mantle card every time. But there's a lot of grandmas that come in for little Johnny, 7 years old. He's interested in baseball card collecting, and they'll buy him 6 packs of Dunruss for $6. No problem. It's a $6 investment. They don't care if they're valuable or not. The kid is going to have fun opening up those packs. One of the users in right now, Kurt, actually, he buys a lot of high-end collectibles for me. I don't need a store to sell him high-end stuff. It's just a phone call. But again, making money with the average stuff. So yes, if you're going to sell this stuff on a yard sale or like all at an auction house, you probably lose money. You got a big retail store with a lot of people coming in, it's a gold mine.
So your higher ticket
yard sales, I'm so sorry, or at the swap meet, don't devalue your dollar items because every dollar adds up. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's only good if it's like all these $100 items. Well, guess what? All those single dollars add up.
Yeah, but also they don't have the foot traffic. So if they have a 4-hour yard sale, if they don't sell it, they're stuck with it. So it's like a different way of thinking. Now, do I want to find 10 Mickey Mantle cards? Of course I do. We all do.
Right.
And if you've seen some of my comic book videos in the Hoarder House, I'm actually going to PSA coming. Yeah, I got a PSA video coming up with some cards that I'm sending to PSA where every card is a Hall of Famer, I think the cheapest card is $200-$300. And yes, that happens sometimes too, and it's great when it happens, but you just got to make money with everything.
I got to interrupt for a moment. I'm going to go through some of the comments, if I may.
Okay. No fat comments.
Well, we got Lisa saying, hi, I love you guys. That's pretty cool.
Thank you, Lisa.
And Kurt, look at all the sports stuff. Oh, I made a wide view and you had some sports stuff behind you.
Miami Dolphins jersey and German national soccer jersey, which Germany's all of a sudden like totally sucking in soccer. I don't know what happened.
Let's see. Mike Tackett, between Storage Wars, Bargain Hunters, and having a family, how do you balance your time?
Oh.
He has a very understanding wife.
Yeah, and then the girlfriend, she wants time. I don't know. It's hard, but I think every American is in the same position. We all work hard. Let's just be honest. Life in America got very expensive, especially in California. It's a rat race.
We do family bonding by having our daughter and myself and Rene work in the store.
Yeah, sometimes we work late in the store together. So when we film Storage Wars full time, it gets really hard because that's usually 4 days of filming. As you can see, Storage Wars kind of went to a lot of new cast members to bring in different people. So we don't do every episode anymore, so it got a little bit easier. But yeah, when we're filming, it's hard. I mean, I'll spend 40 to 60 hours filming a week sometimes between all the driving and then still running the business and still having family time. So there's sometimes a week where it's just like, it goes quick. But you got to do what you have to do in order to be successful. So just got to stick it out.
Absolutely. I noticed you guys took a trip to Disney recently. I mean, are people stopping you in Disney going, hey, I know you?
Yeah. Every time I go, it just gets more and more. Like this was the most...
He's had to sign Disney princess books and give those autograph.
Yep. There's Disney princess books out there where it's Cinderella, Rene Nezhoda, and then Snow White. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's out there. But yeah, people stop us a lot, and I'm always happy to look. This is the way we look at it. If we can say hi to a fan, I don't even like calling them fans, but to somebody that's really into the show. And you can tell, people, it totally makes their day.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we had a lady come all the way from the Ukraine to check out the store, and she was so happy to take a picture, bought a T-shirt for her husband. And I take, 5 to 10 pictures on a weekday and then sometimes 50 pictures on the weekend days. And people get super happy and excited. So I think it's a gift from God that all I have to do is say hi, maybe take a picture, answer a couple of questions, and totally make their day. So we do that too at Disneyland, but because we're there to have fun at Disneyland with our daughter, so usually what I do a lot is move fast. As long as I don't stop, I'm good. But I move fast, and then you get a lot of people turning their head and they're looking, and then before that's usually so crowded when they realize we're already gone. So, which I feel bad about sometimes, but at the same time, we're there to have fun. But
there was a guy at Disneyland who was from Guatemala, so he knew us from the show called Quien da Más. That's what I say it in Storage Wars in Spanish. And he was so excited. I told Rene, oh my God, that probably topped his whole trip. That was better than going to Disneyland. Yes. He was so elated to meet Rene.
Yeah, we took a few pictures with them. So when we end up standing in line with people and stuff, then we always, and we get the different type of fan. You get the fan that just gives you a wink, it's just like, cool. Then we get the fan that's like, hey, can I just take a picture? And then you get the fan is like, oh, I don't want to call you cover, but can we take a quick picture? So they were shot with funny. And then you get the person, oh my God, Storage Wars! That happened in the candy shop. I was trying to go home, so that took me an extra 45 minutes. and people just take pictures. But I mean, the show is watched everywhere. It's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, it is worldwide. No.
Worldwide, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's 186, but it's almost every nation. So I mean, we get messages on Twitter from the Middle East we can't even read, and Asia is a lot of messages now. Japan, the show's getting big. India just started season 5, which is the season that we're coming on full time, and that's one of the biggest populations in the world, right? India and China, so
Yes,
billions
I
of people. So it's just everywhere, and like you can really tell in Disney now because we just get people from everywhere, you know. So it's
So
funny.
you're going in like a jacket.
No.
No, because it still makes people happy, and I try to do it. But so we're at the movies. I'll tell you a quick funny story because now it's really weird.
Oh my god, this is a funny one.
Yeah, you're always questioning yourself, you know, because I'm so used to strangers just coming up. I'm on the phone, people come up and stuff like this. And I mean, that doesn't go a day by where I don't take pictures no matter what I do. Actually, the safest zone for me is to go to auctions because most of those people know me from way before. So, and they don't care, you know, I'm just another annoying storage buyer, so it's great. But so we go to the movies, and this couple comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, can we do a pic? Can you do a picture for us?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem."
So he starts primping his hair, getting ready for like.
Yeah, it's for the camera.
Here's my phone. Take a picture. What are you doing?
So I'm just like, okay, so I take a picture. And I'm like, so yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, he misunderstood the guy meant take the picture.
Well, I get asked that question a lot, and usually they want a picture of me, so I just take the picture. But it was funny. Yeah, so life is funny, but we laugh at it. And like I said, it's a gift from God. We can make somebody smile just by being ourselves, you know? That's a pretty cool gift.
That absolutely. I'm going to look at a few more questions and comments real quick. Give me one moment. We've got Dustin Drennan. I love Storage Wars. Who doesn't love Storage Wars? I mean, it's exciting, but except those commercial cliffhangers. It's just like 5 minutes of commercials. It's like, come on, you're killing me here.
Well, they're really good. So, like, I watch shows like Pawn Stars, same thing. I'm like, crap, just say how much it's worth. You know, I want to go to sleep. But those editors are really good. You know, in Storage Wars, the original production is a really good editing team. And they know how to make sure that you want to stick around. Because you want to know how much that shoe is worth because you could find it on a yard sale tomorrow. And that's another great thing about Storage Wars. A lot of the cool items that we find is actually items that you can find out too. Where when you look at some of the other shows, like, oh, it's a Babe Ruth baseball uniform. Great, but how often are you going to find that? You know, it's like, where a lot of the items that we appraise of is actually items that you can find, which is cool. So you get an education.
Or you might have in your attic or basement.
Yeah, you have your attic, basement, and you know, people always say like none of that stuff is possible. It's not out there. And like I said, we're going to break a story on Thursday on YouTube, $7.5 million. So that's pretty crazy. And that's more to the story, but you will see it on Thursday.
Wow, I am definitely looking forward to that. Looking at a couple of more comments, we got, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, Dania. Storage Wars has inspired me to get into the business recently. I bought my first 3 units last month. Any tips you can share?
Yeah, I mean, lots and lots of tips. So we're going to actually do some more videos on our channel too. But one of the videos I wanted to do, because it just happened to actually a veteran buyer, and we have a little group between buyers where it's only buyers that know each other in Southern California. And this guy bought a unit for $600, and it had like all the telltale signs. So, and this is basically going to be the YouTube video. Never, ever buy a unit where most of the boxes are taped up with duct tape. I don't want to judge anybody, but putting anything out there. But only super poor people use duct tape to usually tape their boxes. And if you do that, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend you. But the storage business, that's a rule. Another rule is if
the boxes are cut, like somebody peeked into it.
Yeah, that's so somebody peeked in, so somebody was probably in there that shouldn't have been in there. Another thing is if most of the stuff is boxed in Budweiser or liquor boxes, that's usually a really bad sign. It's gonna be poverty, low stuff. And
that the beer's not there.
Yeah, the beer's not there. But so that's usually not a good sign. And another sign is, so I learned this the hard way a long time ago. If somebody has all this stuff in hard shell Walgreens or Rite Aids or CVS boxes, so like, you know, different stores for different parts of the country, but basically drugstores, convenience stores, they usually, in order to get all those boxes, you have to go in the back of the store and steal them, basically. So a person that has that type of mentality in life usually is not going to be that successful anyway. So that's a bad unit to buy. A good thing to look for units, and this has been true for me 99% of the time, except one time I also bought it in Storage Wars. It was one of my worst unit ever. But if somebody numbers every single box, if you look at the boxes and you see, hey, this box is A17, B17, 90% of the time the stuff is going to be super clean stuff. That's your worst case scenario. Your best case scenario, you're looking at some sort of collection. And the guy knows exactly that B17 is his 1956 Topps cards, B18 is 1970 cards. Now, this could be true for any hobby, obviously. It could be his Barbies, his Legos. So when I see units where every box is usually individually numbered and it looks clean, I always buy it. Only one time I got screwed, it was an eviction, and they numbered every box for the inventory type of thing. So, and that wasn't Storage Wars. That's when I fell through 3 layers of furniture. That's like the worst unit I've ever bought in the show. But, yeah, so those are some little things to look for. But if you want to learn more about that type of stuff, sorry, I'm plugging my YouTube channel, but
go ahead. What is the YouTube channel? Plug it.
Bargain Hunter Thrift.
Bargain Hunter Thrift on YouTube. We put a lot of videos out there, and we put tips and tricks videos, and we also put videos of what we buy, and we just try to comment on what we see and things like that. Excuse me.
Sure.
So,
are you guys doing any of that on your fan page also on Facebook?
Yeah, what we will do, sometimes we'll do live interactions on the fan pages, but we'll put the links to YouTube. So I like the way the YouTube system goes. Plus, YouTube pays us a little bit, so.
Advertising revenue is a beautiful thing.
The big thing how we get started on YouTube, and this is good for YouTube maybe. So we did a lot of stuff on fan pages, but as it gets older, it's hard for people to find because you kind of just see the latest stuff. But now, so I forgot this young lady's name, but if on YouTube, if you want to see something storage buying tips, you just type it in and you'll find a video I put up 3 years ago really easily. So you might be new to the channel, but you still want to get knowledge. So you can watch a video 3 years ago and the knowledge is still generally there. And then we do different series too. So, so that's what I like about YouTube a little bit better.
Right on. I'm looking at questions, and one that comes up a lot. I got to find it.
No plastic surgery. I mean, this is what God gave me. Thank you for asking. I get that a lot.
What part of New York are you from with that accent? No, I'm kidding.
A little further east.
Way east. I'm a wetback. I swam the Atlantic Ocean from Europe. Long swim.
That was me being a jackass, but anyway.
It's okay. I get that all the time. I get New York, Boston, and New Orleans.
I mean, I personally knew better because I'm from New York, and you sound nothing like me, so there. Dustin's got a question, and I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I'm going to bring it up there, and you decide if you want to answer it or not.
Is Dave really an asshole? Well, I think he means asshole. I don't know. Okay, I shouldn't curse. I'm sorry. Well, Dustin said it, so hey. Let me put it this way.
We get asked that all the time.
That's the number one question we get asked.
Question we've ever been asked.
You know what? I respect him as a businessman. He's really good in buying and selling. He knows what he's doing. He's just very competitive, you know. The thing he does...
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, he's very competitive, and sometimes... He doesn't know when to stop sometimes where he's crossing a line. But, you know, me and him get along, you know. We had plenty of bidding battles, and we got into it a couple of times. But I think there's a mutual respect. We're both big bidders. I can live with him, but I can see how a lot of people get offended by him, you know.
He just needs lots of prayer. A lot of extra special prayer.
Yeah, he needs some more prayer. But, I mean, I'm fine with him. You know, like a lot of the stuff I know about the business, I learned from him, too. You know, I mean, he was always one of the top guys in the business for a long time, so I have no problem with him. But I've seen him react to people, give answers to questions where, you know, I'm like, questionable. But with being interactive with the fans, he's one of the top people. He's always interactive. He never turns anybody down. He gets a lot of shit, you know.
You kind of have to buy a T-shirt or a hat.
Yeah, no, yeah, he does charge you. He used to charge you when $10 if you want a picture. People come to us all the time and ask us how much for a picture, you know.
Yeah, they say it all like, do we have to pay for a picture? And we're like, no, we just feel honored that you'd like to take a picture.
Yeah, so, but, you know, he's good at business. I mean, he made the most money from the fan interaction. You got to give credit for that, you know.
Was smart, genius.
You know, he probably made at least $100,000 in just taking pictures. You know, where me and Casey made zero. Jared and Bryony made zero. But we have other cast members on the show when they're eating lunch or at certain places, they won't take pictures. They won't acknowledge you. So if I had to choose from the two extremes, I'd rather have the person that's approachable because, again, it's a God-given gift. And the most important thing, especially in the beginning when we came on the show, like, it's like, hey, stay humble. Nothing has changed. The only difference between you and me, if I rob a 7-Eleven, a tip line is going to go crazy. That's it.
Oh, okay. So we've got Mike, who pays a little bit of attention to your poker career, and Rene, are you as good as poker as you are in Storage Wars? Also, did the weed head give you an instant headache while playing poker in San Diego last month?
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny. Yeah, I tweeted out, like, actually, I thought I was going to get a whole bunch of hate from the pod community, but nobody really gave me a hard time. Yes, so I played the WPT last month, and it was a 3-day event, and on the first day event...
at Ocean's 11 in San Diego.
Ocean's 11 San Diego. And it was WPT Deep Stacks, actually, so that's a $1,100 buy. And I got a pretty picture.
Sure.
And this guy sits down next to me, and he just reeked. I mean, like, reeked from pot. Was fuming up everywhere. And I don't do drugs. I don't smoke pot. So, and that it gives me actually a headache. And I was like, man, just put on some cologne or take a shower or something. He was like, well, it's my right to smoke pot. So I get in an argument with him at the poker table because, like, if you're gonna be nice to me, I'll talk to you all day long. You're the nicest person. But if you're gonna come back to me rude, I'm gonna come back rude. It's just like however you want to do it. It's your choice on what kind of relationship you want. So, he's just talking trash, and I'm like, well, it's illegal when they pull you over, He's like, no, it's not. It's legal in California. I'm like, well, then we argue about federal versus California. And I'm like, well, also, then you can always consider freaking common courtesy. Not everybody's a pothead, And then he's like, well, you should try stuff like this. And I'm like, and then I was rude to him. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I like it when you get high. This is a guy in his mid-20s, None of his clothes were, they looked rough, and his flip-flops relaxed. And he's actually a professional poker player, and I think he had career earnings of like $300,000, which is really not that much in tournament if you play all the time because it's expensive to play, So, and I play mostly cash games. But so we get in that argument, and I told him where he got mad at me. I'm like, look, I love it that you do drugs. I think they should make it all legal. You should be able to go to the bathroom and shoot up heroin.
Oh my God.
I just don't want to. I don't want to be affiliated with it. I don't want to have
his opinion, not mine.
Yeah, I don't want to be affiliated with it. And if you want to smoke pot all day and eat cookies, that's great. That's one less person in life that wants to be competitive with me in the game of trying to win and, build good things for my family. So that's the truth. That's how I feel. Drugs are bad. I tell people all the time. I have a lot of friends that smoke pot that I'm not friends that much anymore because that's just kind of what they do. That's their goal every day, And that's just not me. I want to get up and I want to go hustle and, make money, and I want to make sure.
Win at the game of life, is that what you said?
Yeah, and winning is different definitions, but you know what? To me, is like I want to send my daughter to college. I want to make sure she's taken care of. If she wants to play soccer or wants a Nintendo, I don't want to be like, well, I just bought all my weed. So I have customers like that.
But the question was more related to how do you do in poker? Are you a better poker player? Or are you just as good of a poker player as a storage buyer?
Yeah, I'm super competitive. So I like to. I'm a winning poker player, so I keep track of all my play, and I win every year. And I played some really good high money cash games, in Rancho Santa Fe, where you can win $6,000-$7,000 a night in a 1-2 game. It's crazy, but like most of the players in there, except for me, are millionaires, and they have fun. They can afford to play in multimillionaires. So
and Rene was he was actually a professional poker player when I met him. For 3 years, and like I never thought he would be on TV for what we do. I always thought he'd be on TV for winning a huge game of poker. Yeah,
and then when my daughter was born, I gave it up because there's a lot of stress, and if you play really good poker, you cannot care about the chips. I got back into it, been playing again the last 4 or 5 years probably. Sorry. And I'm playing pretty good. I mean, I don't play as many tournaments because I don't have time to travel that much, but I'm probably playing 3 or 4 cash games a week, and pretty substantial cash games, so I do good. I like to think I'm a pretty good poker player, and I play any poker game. So, in any style, Omaha, high-low, big O, whatever you want to play, let's play. As long as it has to be for some halfway series limits, So
seriously.
Yeah, I can't play too. Like I get invited, a lot of my friends. Oh, it's $10 buy, and I'm like, I can't play that because I'm all in every hand. Like,
I can't even play that.
I had last week. One night I did like $8,600. That's in a 1-2 blind game. So unless you play poker, you don't know what that means. But it's a 1-2 blind game with a 300 max buy-in. We played for like 6 hours, and I was up 8,600. So that's a lot for that limit. So that's a good win for a 10-25 game.
Yeah, well, Dustin's saying stop being nice when it comes to poker and stuff.
I'm not nice at poker. I try to win. Actually, I got invited to Poker Night of America, and then I couldn't make a date, and I got invited to the Celebrity Edition. I couldn't make that because I was filming, so we'll see. I'll probably do something in the future there. Actually, on our YouTube channel, we have one video where we played that poker game, the crazy one, so you can see a little bit. But it was kind of bad video because we did a live feed, but you still can kind of see it. I'm thinking about taping some of that stuff, and that'll probably be some episode on our channel because everybody, like, so many people come up, oh man, when are you going to do more of that poker video? They really seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, and she's saying, okay, great, thank you. I'll check out your YouTube. That's
Awesome.
another.
Thank you.
Everybody, go to the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
YouTube.
a lot of good knowledge on there.
Looking over comments, and there was one that I wanted to. There's so many coming in, so I'm trying to weed through them. You have to forgive me.
I'm going to drink some bubbly water. We'll be right back. We're not getting paid by these people, but if you like bubbly water, Soleil, it's just a new brand that I found. Cucumber melon. It's a winner.
Nice.
Sorry, but I got to give credit where credit is due.
Oh, Darren.
Yep. Okay. Well, Darren is not how I win a popularity contest. It's okay. It's a good catchphrase. Also, Storage Wars is returning this Wednesday at 10 p.m. on A&E.
Yeah, don't forget to
I think I had that up there a moment ago. Hold on a second.
Oh, you did?
I am slacking off. There it is. New season of Storage Wars.
Oh, yeah, there you go. November 7th at 10 p.m. And I'm going to get into it, the first episode with Jared. I don't remember. This was filmed like 4 months ago. But I think Jared was trying to push me around. So I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Screw it. That's better. I get like that sometimes. We don't care.
You guys are actually 4 months out for a show?
So it's different depending on how we film. So we filmed like 2 months straight, and like some of the episodes were going live within 30 days. This season, A&E got a bunch of new shows. They got different people on there also doing different things. So I actually finished filming in July, and this was one of the last episodes I filmed. They don't necessarily play in order. And so I filmed like, I think the first week or towards the end of July. I don't exactly remember, to be honest. But sometimes in July. And now it's going to air November 7th. So what's that, like 4 months, right? 4 or 5 months. So that's for that episode. But that's some stuff that we filmed in May and April that will probably air around December time. So it just depends on how many shows A&E has. It also depends on how some of the different TV shows are doing. Because what happens if they bring out a new show and nobody watches it, they just blow it. They show the rest one Sunday and move on. And then they say, well, Storage Wars wasn't supposed to be back till November, but now we want to see you guys in August. So it changes all the time.
But the numbers for your show, I mean, from what I understand, they're great. They're no.
No, he was talking about other shows being a dud.
Yeah, no, other competing shows, or like they try to
other content.
They tried a show that was called like Boston, something with Boston with girls that were like going to college or so, and the ratings were so low they played the whole season on a Sunday. So when that happens, they have to find something to fill that time slot.
Right.
Storage Wars is a really basic following. That's like some hardcore people that watch every season. We always start out with like over 1 million viewers, plus our DVR numbers are really high, and they do good with reruns. But what really sets us apart is that Storage Wars is successful like in almost every country in the world. It was so successful in France, they did a French spin-off on the History Channel in French Storage Wars. In Russia, it was the #1 reality show. In Latin America for the A&E network, Storage Wars. So this was 2 years ago. I don't know about this year, but 2 years ago, it was the #1 show in every Latin American country.
Mexico, Central America, South America,
Brazil.
Canada.
Canada must. So they make a lot of money with just broadcasting it to different countries.
Well, and it's super relatable because it doesn't matter where you live, everybody wants to know how to make money.
And what's cool about Storage Wars, so like I like watching shows like, Bering Sea Gold or Gold Rush. But Gold Rush, to go do it, he's like, yeah, but get a couple $1 million worth of equipment and then we'll see how you do if you know. Like, okay, well, I can't do that. With Storage Wars, you can literally have $50 in your pocket, find a local auction, and I guarantee you, if you go for 2 or 3 days, there will be units that will be in your price range and you can do it. And if you have $5,000 in your pocket and you're looking for better units, you can do that too. Anybody can do it. That's the beauty about Storage Wars.
Right on. I'm going to let one of you guys read this question.
Oh, boy. Go ahead.
When you get in your own show.
Why did you say that like in a funny accent?
I don't know.
When you get in your own show, howdy, partner? Well, we do a lot of stuff on the YouTube channel. We don't have anything in works with A&E right now for our own show. But we talked to a couple of different production companies already, and there's ideas for doing our own show. And probably if we do our own show, we'll probably produce it ourselves. We finance everything, so have a little bit more control with, future items. Right now, so actually
future content.
For future content and also where we wanted to show and stuff like this. We talked to Original Productions before, but they had no interest in doing that. They already did that with Jared and Brandy, and that really didn't work out. They only had
but our show will be about making money and not about our life, but like educating people. Renee's really hot on educating people.
Yeah, I want to. So like when we do our own show, it's going to kind of be a combination of Storage Wars, because that's what we really do. It's going to be a combination of American Pickers, because that's what we really do. If you watch our hoarder videos on YouTube, which are like unbelievable. I watch these videos. I'm like, I can't believe I got all that, And I still have probably like 2,000 boxes I haven't even opened yet. And there's going to be a lot of content coming. And then the third thing is going to be like Pawn Stars, because people bring me stuff every day. Also, if you watch our videos, we just got 2 Jackie Robinson balls and a Willie Mays ball. And we bought them as this. We had them authenticated. So there's a follow-up video that says we got our balls back. I try to do smart-ass things like that. So it will be a combination like that. And who knows, maybe we will do it with Original Productions one day. That's the production company for Storage Wars. But our contract, our exclusivity just expired, actually. But at the same time, we're waiting because A&E is probably going to order some more episodes. And obviously, we're loyal to the Storage Wars family. And as long as that show keeps on going on, we cannot do anything else unless we do it with Original Production or A&E. So, there's stuff in the works. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely a possibility in the future. But thanks for the question.
Well, you brought up a valid point, though. I mean, you don't only go to storage auctions. You go to estate sales and some of your bigger finds, the comic book hoarder. Can you go into that a little? That was amazing.
Oh, that was you want to hear a crazy story? How funny. We always say, and, I say it's God interfering. Some people just say it's luck of the universe. No,
it's God.
Yeah, we say it's God, but you respect everybody's beliefs. Everybody has their own points, but basically the point is sometimes stories just happen crazy, right? So last year at this time, we just finished Storage Wars, and we're like filming straight for almost 2 years. And they said, oh, you got like a week. No, that was less. They said you have most of the month of July off. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This was a year later already. That was a year before. But we just got done filming for almost 2 years straight, except for like a month. And we had our cousin in from Austria. And I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? We just got to take a break. We're going to go on a road trip. We're going to go see Mount Rushmore and Zion and Grand Canyon. And then we ended up going to Yellowstone and Lake Tahoe. And we just got the Rocky Mountains, which were awesome.
States, 4,000 miles later.
Yeah. So 2 weeks. We're just going to go. And wherever we go, and we find our hotels that night, and we're just going to have fun and explore America. And it's going to be with our daughters, family bonding time. And I disabled everything on my phone. I was
16 days he didn't check his email.
Didn't check my email, which I was like at the end, I was like,
I've never seen him go without checking.
Yeah, turn off all our online sales. I told my employees, I'm like, look, whatever decision you have to make in the store, make the decision. I'll back you. If it's wrong, I'll tell you, but I still back you. And just unless the store is on fire, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to hear about any deals. I want to hear nothing. Because I know how I am. You call me all of a sudden, I'm in Mount Rushmore. I'll tell Casey, all right, I'm hopping on a plane. I got to go to San Diego, So just wholly disconnect. So we come back from this trip about 16 days later. And the first thing I do is I'm like, okay, I got to go check my emails. And I checked the Bargain Hunter thrift store emails. And like literally the day that we left, this guy emails me. He's like, hey, Rene, I'm a big fan of Storage Wars. My brother used to own a comic book shop from the 80s till the early 2000s. He has 2 10x20s where he put stuff in there since 1989. Last time anything was taken in or out was like, I think like 2000. And don't quote me totally on the dates because this is already a year ago. So I think he said like something like 2009. He passed away in 2009, and we've been paying storage on it ever since. I'm older. My dad is a lot older. We have no way of moving it. So we'd like to sell it to you. If you don't buy it, we call in Goodwill. Literally, that's the quote. So, and I see this email. I'm like, oh my God, that's 2 weeks ago. That sounds like a really good email. So as I'm reading this email, and a new email pops up from the same guy. Hey, you guys haven't called me? Come on, please give me a courtesy reply. So this is like 10 o'clock at night. I called the guy. His name was Don. And I'm like, hey, Don, I'm so sorry. And I just explained that we came back from vacation and stuff like this. He's like, okay, no problem. I have everything, but in about 5 days, I have to pay rent again. I don't want to. I'm calling Goodwill. And he's telling me it's like full of comic books and baseball cards and just things that would be in a store like this, action figures, stuff like this. So I told him, okay, let me come out, drive out tomorrow. I'll come take a look, which I just drove like 4,000 miles. But I'm like, yeah, I'll be in LA in the morning. This was like northern LA part. So probably round trip driving 6 hours for me. So we drive out there, we look at the units, and they are literally packed to the door. I mean, I got videos. So that's 4 videos on the YouTube channel. I think they're called something like comic book storage unit, comic book hoarder storage unit, something like that. And every door you can open, you just see comic cards and comic books and baseball, and you just see it's packed. So we buy these 2 units, and don't quote me on this either, but I think it was around $3,000. And he's telling me, he's like, oh yeah, my brother, he's been collecting since the 60s and that stuff from the 50s. And he has a house, he goes like, there's a room nobody's been into for 30 years. And supposedly he has Amazing Fantasy 15, which is the very first Spider. I see you got superheroes, so yeah, it's the very first Spider-Man. And he has all these comics from the 50s and Mickey Mantle cards and like all this stuff. Now, people always tell me crazy stories, so I take it with a grain of salt. But he goes like, yeah, it's like you can't even walk. And I'm like, hey, if you ever want to sell it, let me know. You know, we'll buy it by the piece. We'll buy the whole house. We'll however you want to do it. And he's like, no, I got to go through it. Now, this guy's in his 60s and kind of looks like in rough shape himself, you know. And I'm like, well, if you ever want to do it, you got my phone number. You know, I'm definitely interested. And I'll buy piece by piece for super dollar. I'll buy it a lot. Now, we just started filming Storage Wars. So, yeah, so it must have been when we only had a short break because literally that week we started filming Storage Wars. So I cannot deal with the units. I just end up renting the units for 6 months, don't even go back, even though I know I got a score in there. You know, I spent $3,000. I think my phone call to Casey was like, hey, there's at least 20 grand worth of stuff in there. It's going to be great for the store. But as we started going through it, ended up actually being a lot more. Like, he thought there would be about 7,000 comic books in there. There was well over 60,000 comic books in the storage unit. There's probably alone somewhere between 7 to 15,000 12-cent comic books in there. But I guess I don't know. But they just like, if I'm not buying it, that thing is at Goodwill. So for all you Goodwill pickers, sorry. But so the story gets crazier. So, and sorry, it's a long story, but it's like one of them crazy.
Okay,
stories.
go ahead.
Like you don't even believe it until you experience. Like, so sometimes I stand in the shower, dressed, and I just take a shower and I'm like, I can't believe that happened. That's just like such a lucky deal. Because let's be honest, there's not much skill involved in that deal, okay? It's just luck at the right time and just lucky, and everything was coming together for this deal. So now we have to delay picking up this unit 6 months. I pay 6 months rent, which cost me like $400 a month. And I go there and the manager, so we're loading everything up, 2 trips. It was like more than we thought. One unit, like we thought the wall was right there because that's how he remembered it. Went another 10 feet deep, you know. Insane. Yeah, that's where all these extra comics were. And the manager's like, yeah, the guy you bought that from, he died. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know. He was telling me his brother died. He lost the unit. Because I'm thinking it's still the brother that originally believed it. He goes like, no. Don that you bought it from, he died too. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, well, he had his really bad case of diabetes. If all you fat guys, including myself, take care of that. Yeah, you too. Yeah, so I don't have it yet, but I'm sure I'm borderline.
Neither do I.
Yeah, very good. Let's hope we don't get it. But so he had diabetes really bad, and he got an infection in his leg, and he didn't take care of it, and it got so bad where it got gangrene, and basically he went to the hospital and never left. Now, when I was buying the original deal with him, after buying the deal, we went to his house. I met his dad, which is 91 years old, and we bought a bunch of stuff at the house, and the house was packed too with DVDs. And he said, okay, like, hey, not to the hoarder house, but his house, so his parents' house, and which had a lot of stuff too. I mean, as you could see, the overflow was going there already. And we bought some stuff there, and there was future deals that we were going to make with him eventually. So I did meet the dad. So this manager is telling me that he died also. So the next week when I was filming Storage Wars in Burbank, which was not very far from the place where we bought the house, after filming, I went over to go see the dad, and his name was Harold, and he remembered me, and I'm like, hey, sorry about the loss of your son. And he's like, no, this was already 6 months ago. It literally happened a week after we bought the deal. And I'm like, well, I know if, he has a lot of stuff you guys wanted me to buy. So he's like, yeah, come in here. So he's like, I need to get rid of all these DVDs. He had like 5,000 DVDs stuck. I'm like, okay, great. We'll pay this. Then he had full of collectibles. He's like, give me like $100 for all this. I'm like, I can't give you 100, but I'll give you 500. So he was really happy. And I still got a great deal of 500, but he was
Rene will do that if he feels like
it was just so under. I mean, at $500, to be honest, I'm still stealing. I'm still making a great deal. I didn't even go through, but he was much happy to get 500 instead of 100. And he was 91 years old. He flat out told me he has a lot of money in the bank. He was a veteran. He was in the Navy during World War II. This house he owned free and clear. I became friends with him and still talk to him every now and then. The other house is free and clear. That was Gary's house. That was the original brother that died. And he said that house, he'll flip the next day for $500,000 once it's cleaned out. So he's going to get that money. And he's 91. He says he's not worried about money. He wanted to give me stuff. I'm like, I can't take it for free, but we can make piles. So then we're talking, and I tell him, I was like, hey, Don told me that Gary's house, which is the original brother, is supposedly a hoarder house, and it's full of stuff. And, and he goes like, yeah, it's full, but it's all junk. I'm like, well, he said there's good stuff in there, collectibles. He's like, it's trash. You can't even walk in that house. And
she was right.
It was definitely trash. I mean, there was rat poo everywhere, and it stunk.
That you couldn't walk through the house.
And you couldn't walk through.
That was the only part that he was right.
So I said, Harold, what are you going to do with all that stuff? He goes like, I'm getting quotes from different companies, and it's going to cost me $20,000 to $40,000 to clean it out. I'm going to throw it all away. And I'm like, don't do that. That's collectible. He was like, I'm 91 years old. I can't deal with it. He's like, I can barely make it up the stairs now. So you have to go upstairs. It was a pain in the butt. It was like an old house, So I'm like, why don't we go over there? Let's take a look. Maybe I'll make you a cash offer for the house. Because I still haven't seen nothing. I don't know.
Just the contents within the house.
Just the contents within the house, yeah. So we go over there. He opens up the door. I mean, the smell in the house almost knocked you out because it's just stale air. It's been like that for years. Like I said, there was a room nobody went in for 30 years. I walk in, and just DVDs everywhere. We pulled over 5,000 DVDs out of there, too. There was one little room and had a huge showcase, and there was like all kinds of like superhero statues, kind of like how you have in the background. Some stuff great, some stuff so, but everything from like the 50s to the 80s, that time frame. So I'm like, okay, well, even if it's not super rich, collectors will love that. Top right hand, there was a shelf just full of 1960s model kits.
Okay, he's looking over the pile,
yeah.
another pile to see the stuff.
Yeah, just piles of clothes, and the kitchen was all piles of glassware, but like all like McDonald's glasses and stuff like this, cards everywhere. You walk down, you look in the living room.
You couldn't walk. You had to squeeze through, and each room, imagine a 2,400 square foot home. Each room was completely a brick. I've never seen so much stuff from the floor to the ceiling, all the way to the door. You just walked squeezing through the hallway, and you just see this room completely packed with brick.
So we actually have, I think, 4 videos, and I just realized I might have a 5th one I need to upload. It's called Comic Book Hoarder House. You definitely want to watch that. So you kind of get an idea in there, and it does a lot of content.
It took us 4.5 days with like 5 workers to empty out one room. That's how much content. And
there was rooms we couldn't even get. There was a room in the back. So when you got to the back of the house, there was a room. There was a buffer room between the 30-year-old room, like a foyer. And the thing was literally from top to bottom, like 8 or 9 feet high, nothing but books, the whole room. That took us 2 days just of moving books. Okay? Then you got to a drawer. You open the drawer, and that's in one of the videos. It's nothing full of 12-cent comics. And we're just going through, and the video was saying, well, all of these are at least $5 a piece. And people are messaging me, you idiot, that's $1,000 book. That's a $500 book. But I said, hey, a minimum of $5. Obviously, we're doing research on it. So I've been sorting in our office like probably 8,000 books just from those drawers in that room.
And when he says office, he means my house.
Yeah. And then, we found a Flash #1 in there. Yeah. We found Amazing Fantasy 15, X-Men 1.
You sold the Flash for? Or?
The Flash, I made a bad decision.
No, it was a good decision at the time.
Yeah, I sold the Flash for $25,000, but it's probably worth $40 or $50. So, but we sold it as is graded. But I had somebody come over that was, I sold it to a big comic book shop in Vegas, but they had somebody else come over pretending to be like a private person. It's just, the tricks.
And he only threw it out there. Oh, okay, well, if you come with cash, $25,000 tomorrow, I'll sell it to you. And the guy did, and Rene was kind of like, oh, well, I wasn't sure if I really meant I wanted to sell it.
It paid for the whole deal, so we're kind of getting ahead of us. So I know it's a long story, but it's a crazy story. So we look at it, and you can't see nothing. I'm looking at this deal. I'm like, man, it's going to cost me at least $20,000 in labor just to go through that stuff and take out good stuff. Plus trucks, each trip is 7 hours for us, around 3.5 hours each way.
Because it's LA, we live in San Diego.
So I'm like, Harold, are you really going to throw this away? He goes like, yes, I'm going to pay somebody just to dump it all. I'm like, there's a lot of collectibles in there, and there could be good stuff in there. He goes like, no, he sold all the good stuff years ago, and I just, it doesn't matter. I'm 91 years old.
Care. He just wanted to empty the house so he could sell the house.
There's no grandkids. Both sons never married, never had kids. There's no more family. So there's nobody there to deal with it. So I'm like, okay, if you're really going to throw it away, I'm going to take a gamble. It's like, and I told him too, I'm like, that could be $100,000 worth of stuff. That could be 200, or I could lose 30,000, which is true. And I've done a couple of times before in the past. So I said, I'll give you $20,000 cash if I can have the house for a month and a half to go through. And I take what I want. I said, I'm not going to do a clean out. I just go through it. I take what I want. And I told him, I'm like, look, I'm probably going to take at least 50 to 75% of the stuff in the house because obviously it's good. By the time I'm done, I'm going to be in it somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000.
Which you probably took like 90% of the stuff.
Yeah, well, I sold a couple things to other dealers at the end. But yeah, we took a lot of it. So
it wasn't junk.
He didn't believe me. He's like, you're going to give me $20,000. I'm like, yes, but I need the house for a month and a half. He was like, that's no problem. You take 2 months, whatever. And he goes like, okay, Rene, if you have $20,000 tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll do the deal. Like he's kind of calling me out on it. I'm like, because a lot of people bullshit in this business, I'm like, great, I'll meet you here tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We'll do the deal. I'll write up a little contract. Bring me all the keys. I need keys, full access to the house. Nobody else can come over here. He's like, yeah, no problem. Nobody touches it. It's been sitting here for 6 months. I'm like, great. So we met the next
30 years.
Well, 30 years, but nobody's been there for 6 months. So yeah, we met the next day. I gave him $20,000 cash. He couldn't believe it. And he was so happy because it's such a weight lifted off him. And actually, when I was buying, I almost didn't buy it because the day we made the deal, like I got the message from Storage Wars, hey, we start filming in about 3 weeks.
And it's such an overwhelming project. He's like, I don't know if I can do this in film.
Oh, yeah. Because
we can do it. We can do it.
It's just too much. So, but then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to take a gamble because I know the backstory. And it turns out to be the deal that's probably going to define our lives as secondhand dealers. I mean, if you guys will keep on following the channel, there's so many videos out there. And it's like the deal that we all dream about. It's like the only thing getting better than that probably would be finding $7.5 million in a storage unit you pay $500 for, but that's probably impossible.
Well, no doubt. And I was actually keeping up with that. And I'm going to half name drop. I sent some pictures to a buddy of mine, Jordan, and I tried to hook you up with him. I don't know if you recall. Yeah, probably not. Okay, never mind.
Is he the guy that lives in San Diego?
I'm sorry?
Is he the guy that lives in San Diego for sports collectibles?
Or
was it a different Jordan?
No, different guy. Kind of a toy collector.
I got contacted like pretty much every big company that deals in toy. You name it, they contacted me, including Heritage Auctions and Dave and Adams. And another guy was here from another big auction site. I'm not going to call him out, but somebody supposedly wanted to buy everything. I threw out a huge number, and then it ended up being a site trying to talk us into consigning. So everybody, I'm just not ready to move that. It's just too much good stuff. And like I said, I got 2,000 boxes we haven't even gone through yet.
We even had PSA come to our house.
No, she's trying to say CGC.
CGC. I said PSA.
So yeah, CGC came out and they helped us with some stuff. And
you know what I'm trying to talk about.
Everybody's trying to buy, but here comes the problem. I say one guy's like, hey, look, you got Amazing Fantasy 15. I saw it got graded 1.0. I can get you 6,000 cash right now. And I wrote him back. I'm like, if you have any, I'll give you 8,000, because it's a book that sells all day long for 10,000, 11,000. It just keeps on going up. So I get those guys that are just trying to make a quick couple $1,000s, which I'm the retailer. I know how to do this. I'm in no rush. I'm luckily not hurting for the money. And I want to get, good money for this stuff, unless I sell somebody the whole deal at once. And then there's a percentage. But I mean, this deal, so everybody, there's 2-3 people have seen some of it. and they all don't believe it. Now we just started finding all these sports cards, which got a video coming out the next couple of weeks too, and everybody's like, "Oh, these cards are way too nice. These are fake. Show us the back of the card." So we showed the back of the card, and they're like, "Wow, it's just so amazing that
like mint.
people just don't believe it." Joe Namath rookies.
Well, yeah, people don't understand that you have to get everything authenticated, graded, and that all goes into the pricing and value of these things. How does that reflect on you?
Well, you get more money. So I could, if I don't grade Amazing Fantasy 15, I can say it's a 1.0 or it's complete or it's authenticated. But the people that pay top dollar, they want to see that stuff, So when I get a lot of dealers that know how to grade stuff, they want to buy it raw and then they grade it and make the money. I don't want to do that. I rather grade it myself. Like I'll give you a good example. CGC was here, Matt Nelson. And what was that book? X-Men 101, okay? In a really nice condition, you can buy that book for $200. In a 9.6, which is a super high grade, you can buy that book for like $1,600, $1,700. 9.0, I think you're looking under $1,000, which is 9.0 is almost super mint, okay? You do comics, so you know yourself. Now, he looked at that book. He goes like, wow, you got to send that book in. It's great. So we sent that book in. We spend $150 on pressing it just to make sure everything's perfect. We spend, I think, $150 on grading it roughly. And that book came back at 9.8. Now, because I invested at $300, if I would have sold it raw in my store as a really good-looking book, $300. If I would have sold it somebody guaranteeing, a 9.6, $1,700. But I spent that $300. That's a $5,000 book now. So see, it makes sense from a business sense. And a lot of dealers want to buy raw from you, so they can do it. Exactly. When they quote you a lot of prices, they show you, look, this book on eBay's mint condition is only $200. Yeah, but that's mint.
Yeah. So you can compare apples to apples.
So you have to do your research. I've been working on this deal. I mean, we bought this deal in January. I just finished up bagging most of the comics. That's just from the house. Now I got another 60,000 books in storage.
7,000 that were in my house.
And we actually made a mistake in the beginning. So many people kind of pushed us. Oh, you need to print comics, and so we just took in like 5,000 books. And I kind of,
I did this, I did that. But then when it's a mistake, it's, oh, well, we did this.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I took in 5,000 books, and I just quick checked, and I pulled out any 12 centers. And for the simple reason, 12 centers, we start at $5. But there were some good Bronze Age books. We sold several books for like $2 that were like $200-$300 books. So everybody wants to see everything else now. But like we sold Transformer #1, and this guy, it was bagged and board, and he probably had like 40 copies of like super mint condition. We sold them at $2 a piece. It's a $100 book, So.
Okay.
And then everybody was kind of bragging on Facebook, oh, the store made a mistake. And then I happened to see it, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to check all the comics. And then we started checking, and that's when we just started finding amazing stuff. So we're taking our time with it because of that. But that shows
But that also shows you that we're a real buyer, because you're not a real buyer until you have made a mistake. At least that's what my husband tells me.
Yeah, well,
or maybe that's covering for sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's when you buy that, because like I took chances on those 2 Dodgers balls and the Giants ball. That could have gone the other way and lost $1,000. I made $4,000 the way it worked out, an $1,100 investment. But what the key to the story is that you should always do your research. Never listen to another dealer, and that's including me when you sell me stuff, because a dealer's objective is to make as much money as possible. So you need to go, and most people, I get people sending me messages sometimes for the stuff. Oh, I bought a storage unit. What do you think it's worth? But to be honest, it's a simple Google search, it's a simple eBay search. You can buy a software called WorthPoint. I think it's like $20 a month, and it gives you years of data. I subscribe to WorthPoint and TerraPeak, and sometimes I spend like days researching stuff, educating myself. If you're not willing to do that, you're not going to make money. Then you'll be the guy in the swap meet that sells me a $5,000 comic book for $200, and you be happy and tell somebody a story. Well, I paid $100 for this unit. I sold one comic book for $200. And there's actually a famous story here in San Diego where people know, like, I never will sell art without doing research.
Yeah, here's a good story.
So in San Diego, these 2 guys, there used to be the thing called the corporation. And what the big story with them was, it was for the biggest buyer, and they got tired of beating each other up every week in auctions. They said, you know what, let's find a corporation. We'll work together. We all buy together. We all sell together. And we split the money at the end of the week. And we saved money by just not beating each other up, and it was good. But some of the people got lazy and different things, and it fell apart. But right before it fell apart, when they were doing the worst operating, they bought these 2 units down at the beach for like $2,000. and it was just junk. But they go into trash, because you'd always check trash cans and storage units back then because people throw away good stuff. And it's this oil painting with a ship on it. And they took it to the swap meet, and they never researched it, never looked it up, even though it totally looked good. This is right before I got into business. But it's a huge story. It even made the newspapers. You probably can find it on Google. And they had it for $250. The thing didn't sell till Sunday. A lady came on Saturday. Then she came back Sunday, and she offered them $175, and they sold it. That same lady took it to, I think it's Bonham's, whatever the big auction house is. It's either Butterfield's or Bonham, Butterfield's the same. It's Bonham's, right? The LA one. Sorry, there's so many auction houses, but I'm pretty sure it was Bonham's. They took it to Bonham's, and they looked at it and said, well, it's this artist. We think it's going to bring between $60,000 to $90,000 at auction, minus a few commissions and stuff. Or they said, we'll give you $40,000 cash right now. Oh, yeah. So something. The numbers were something like that. Okay, give a few 10,000, but the moral of the story is the same. So I think they gave her $40,000 cash right then and there, and they sell it. So she took the $45,000. Okay, she bought it for $175,000. Now they put it in an auction block like 6 months later because they advertise stuff like this. The painting sold for like $255,000. And they sold it for $175. So for like years, every time like it was slow in the swap meet or they ate crap on a unit, we would say, it's like, yeah, could you just imagine like finding a $250,000 painting like some people? So I would always get really mad because that was a really sore subject. But it was funny, you know? So in the business, you tease each other like that. So,
yeah,
but that's
the moral of the story is do your research.
Do your research.
Don't sell stuff to get the quick buck.
In this business, like anything else, you can be as successful as you want to be. And if you're not willing to put in the work because you got to play PlayStation, then you're just gonna be one of those guys that makes a few $100s on swapping, has enough money for the beer and hot dogs, and be happy. Or I mean, there's so many deals. I know a guy that bought a whole unit full of Vargas unreleased stuff, and he paid like $1,700, and I think he settled with the family. They wanted to buy it back because they had the rights to reproduce it, which he didn't have. But he definitely had the originals, and what he owned,
What did you say, Vargas?
Vargas.
Circus Vargas?
No, I think I'll probably, now you embarrass me. I'll probably said the wrong name. But the guy who did a lot of that 1920s pinup girls, Vargas, right?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me. I don't know. I'm going to agree with anything you say.
Yeah, okay. Well, if somebody's listening, so now, I don't want to switch screens, but now I feel like an idiot. I hope you're happy. Okay, I can actually do it over here. Let me see really quick as we talk. So, but I think his name was Vargas. Let me see really quick.
The pinup girls you're talking about, right?
Yeah, they were pinup girls, and like almost kind of like oh yeah, right here, Alberto Vargas, Sexy Girl Magazine.
Yeah, Vargas with a V. I was just correcting his name.
Yeah, so not Circus Vargas. So I know what I'm talking about.
Well, no, I wasn't. I was thinking about Circus
You know what?
Vargas.
You're wrong. I'm right. I don't want to talk about it.
And so goes our right.
So he made a deal with the family so they could reproduce and sell calendars and stuff like this. And he got like $1.8 million or so for that deal. And that was a newbie. He was very new in the business. He didn't last very long. He retired after that. There's another thing where
we love to hear these stories, but it always sucks when it's a newbie. We're like, oh, why couldn't a veteran get it?
No, why couldn't I don't want a veteran to get it. I want to get it.
Okay, yeah, us. Yeah.
Laura Dotson from American Auctioneers and Storage Auctions.net, she sold Dr. Gavorkin's unit, and it was really little because there was only a couple of bags in there and a few boxes, and it looked trashy, and they barely paid anything, but had like $25,000 in cash.
Whoa.
I know a guy in Vegas, so this is a poker story. This guy was playing poker. I know there's some poker fans in here. So this guy was playing poker, but his wife didn't want him to gamble or play poker at all. So what he did, every time he went to go play poker, he went to a storage unit first, changed his clothes so he doesn't smell like smoke, so he only had some clothes in there, and he kept his money in that storage unit. His winnings and losses, so his wife would never know. He just started with a basic bankroll, I guess. And he got hit by a car and went in a coma and just couldn't pay his bill. Kind of a sad story, but that's what happens when you lie to your wife, I guess. But so he was literally in a coma in a hospital. And a storage facility can sell you stuff, depending on the state, anywhere from like 30 to 45 days. Most of them will wait 90 days. If you don't pay, they can't get in touch with you. Now, since his wife didn't know about the storage facility, his phone number, address, everything was not on there, was not correct. Because he didn't want to get a bill in the mail for the storage facility all of a sudden and have to answer questions. So they sold his unit. It was just, like I said, a suitcase in there and a couple of duffel bags. I know a guy that bought it for $40. Now I know this guy. I've seen the money. I've seen it in fact. We talk about potheads. The guy's a total pothead. That's all he does. But, you know, he would only buy like $40, $50 units because he didn't want to work and try to flip a little bit on Craigslist. And $65,000 in cash.
Wow.
Get the hell out of here.
For the guy, he came with like a 2-year-old brand new truck. Not brand new, but 2-year like new truck the next day that he paid cash for because his car was falling apart. And,
Wow, nice.
you know, and he just saved the money because he still didn't want to work a lot, you know?
See, so dreams can come true.
It happens all the time. You know, a lot of people say it's all fake and they say it's not true. I know a guy in San Diego that bought a unit full of books from the 1700s. I mean, when I say full, like 50 books, but he sold it to another dealer for like $30,000. And then that guy unfortunately had a drug problem, so you didn't see him for like 6 to 7 months. And when he came back, he was all messed up. But, you know, if you're a responsible person, number one, I wouldn't have sold it to another dealer because you know that guy just consigned it to some big auction house. And but I mean, those deals are out there. So even sometimes the crooked places, there's another place in San Diego that's super crooked, and they go through a lot of stuff. And as you're in the business, you learn which places are straight up and which places are crooked. But this unit, the whole unit was full of Eastern Press books, you know, which are like 50 to thousands of dollars, and then they're new. Yeah. But since those guys weren't that smart, and they weren't into books or anything like this, they didn't steal any of that. So like, books. And a friend of mine bought that unit. So when I say unit, they're like the moving boxes. So they're like, I don't know, like 3 feet by 4 feet or so. So probably had 10 boxes in there, maybe 20 boxes. And he bought that unit for like very little, like $400 or $500, because we know the place is crooked. So you're not gonna find gold. You're not gonna find video games or stuff like that, you know. So and every box was just full of Eastern Press books. And he made like $20,000 on that. So
wow,
yeah. So those deals are out there.
We've got another question, and it's actually for Casey. What is your most memorable buy?
Let me answer that.
My most memorable buy? Well, I would say Rene bought it and brought it home to me, which was really sweet. Where we lived in Las Vegas, and the lady collected jewelry. So she not only collected, you know, it was all with sterling silver, and the lady would collect the necklace. Maybe several necklaces, bracelets, earrings, rings. So, I mean, I had $10,000 worth of jewelry.
Yeah, so
that was a good one.
I know what buy was.
So, I'm sorry, that's what I like.
Yeah, that was not a good move on my part. Should have hit that stuff. Should have pawned it. It would have made more profit. But it was a unit at U-Haul, and it was like really messy. There was like a couple messed up furniture pieces up front, and it was like this really kitschy tiger stripe, like in a shape of a shoe chair, like totally like something you probably would see in a brothel, you know? Not that I've ever been to a brothel, but if I were to go to a brothel, I'm pretty sure they got a chair like that. And it was just like totally kitschy. And the back is like weighing at 10 by 20, but it was almost empty. In the back, you saw these boxes, and it just looked like jewelry boxes, like those silver gold ones, you know?
Because it was in clear tubs.
In clear tubs, yes. You could see those jewelry boxes. And I buy the unit for like $170. I'm like, there's no way. It's just going to be empty boxes, and I'll probably lose $100, but I took a gamble.
You did.
And, yeah. And this lady just collected silver jewelry, and then she had a few pieces of gold and emeralds and some really Tasco nice silver pieces and different nice silver pieces. And actually, I made a bunch. She took a whole bunch. She took all the best pieces. But
I only took the pieces I liked.
Which is all the best pieces. But I still made a few $1,000s in that unit. It was unbelievable. I started opening up the box. I'm like, and everything was stamped sterling. And that was my first lesson in Tasco Silver. So if you guys want to learn something, research Tasco Silver. Also research George Jensen.
Oh yeah, George Jensen.
Yeah,
that's a silver maker.
Scandinavian. I think he's from Norway, but I could be Denmark. I don't know. I could be wrong. One of them Scandinavian countries. But if it has George Jensen on it, whatever price you think it's worth, just start multiplying by 10, and you just go up from there.
Nice.
Well, and it would have to be also the Waterford Crystal unit that you bought. So we're going to go on a pissing contest with another buyer.
Oh, yeah, you talked about... Okay, so we moved back to Vegas because you asked that question earlier. So do people get into pissing contests? So we just moved back to Vegas. We got a new house. It's huge. We didn't have a lot of furniture because it's just way bigger than the condo we had in San Diego at the time. And we went back to Vegas for 2 years, but then we moved back to San Diego again because we just didn't like Vegas as much anymore. And one of the regular locals that I made deals with in the past before, and kind of the mutual respect, you buy, I buy, you know, because we used to come out there all the time buying for San Diego because it was so much cheaper. And they opened up
all the guys would run Rene because he was a newbie.
not a newbie because I was an out-of-towner, but then I would bid higher. They stopped doing that really fast because I had deep pockets, and I still took all my merchandise to San Diego. But and I try to get along with people.
No, I was saying that the San Diego guys were giving you a really hard time because he was entering into the business, and so then we realized, oh, we can go and buy in Vegas, and that's way cheaper.
Yeah, so slowly build up because the stuff was just Vegas, so many more units, and stuff is just cheaper. Most of the people spend their money on gambling it, unfortunately. But it's just, I mean, I would have a hard time selling a Craftsman wrench in Vegas for $1, where I take it to San Diego, I get $2 and $3, and they sell out in the morning, and dealers buy it. So that's the difference. But anyway, so they open up this unit. It's like full of all these Nike shoes, but it has like a really nice office setup. And the shoes for them, they didn't really care about that stuff at the time, you know. And I told the guy, I'm like, hey, I really want this. I want this for my house. There was some nice chairs in there, so like, don't run me too bad. He takes me up to like $600 in the unit for no reason. Normally, that should have been like a $200 unit. Everybody else kind of laid off for me a little bit. But even then, back then, $600 was like top dollar and above just because I wanted it and he thought it was funny. I'm like, okay. And me and him actually ended up getting a huge bidding war. And like, we had bad blood for years. But now the good news is the store's out of business and he does not do the business anymore. So because you just... It's not nice, but it's the truth. You have to play smart, you know. Like it's much easier to get along with people than fight people constantly. So he like that day he hit my shit list, and I'm like, okay, I'll never make a deal with you again. I got plenty of money too. I got a good sales source, and I'm gonna run you up even if I don't want the unit just because you did it. Because that was just, and he was telling everybody, he was just trash talking, and I'm like, okay.
He didn't give Rene professional courtesy.
So I was really annoyed, you know. But I'm like, fine, you want to bid, fine. From now on, we just always bid. There's no deals. Don't ask me for a deal. We bid. And I outbid him with some killer Star Wars unit. That's when the war really started. That's another story. So, but because I made like,
is that the Star Wars deal we saw recently?
Totally different. I'll tell you that story in a second. I got a lot of stories, so you ask questions, you're gonna get these questions.
For the last 13 or 14 years.
So, but here's the funny part that happened. So I was so pissed off on that unit. I was like livid. I was just like, I was pestering it at that time. That's a new term I was just like, I was bad. Okay. So they open up the next unit. There's literally only 3 boxes in there, and everyone says crystal, crystal, crystal. And a lot of times when you buy that, it's not Crystal in there. It's a girl named Crystal. You know? So I had that before too.
The stripper.
So I would normally let him have that unit, you know. And if you would have just let me have that unit before, I would have said, yeah, just take that unit. And me and him were just bidding. I'm like, and he wanted the unit because he had antiques and stuff too. I'm like, in case it's Crystal, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to let him have the unit. So I paid like $225 for 3 boxes, which back then, it's way before the show. That's like astronomical. $75 a box just because it says Crystal on there. There's nothing else really in the unit. So it ended up, every box was full of Waterford in the boxes, some of it loose, but it was just rare. And this is 12 years ago, but the pattern was called Kuramongo or something like that, right? It was a really rare Waterford pattern. I could have sold it on eBay for over $5,000, like immediately. Unfortunately, I ended up losing $225 in the unit because she kept every piece. But I only bought it. That's pissed that I got. If you would have given me professional courtesy the unit before that me had, because I wanted the office chair for my office, he would have got that unit for $50.
Yeah, I'm like, thank you. I don't say his name. Thanks.
Yeah, and he would have made $5,000. But, you know, so we got no the Star Wars unit I just mentioned. So there was these 2 units that came up, and me and him already have really bad blood at this point. And they open up a 5x10. You see a lot of eBay boxes. You see a little bit of Star Wars. And this is the difference between San Diego and Vegas. And I took him up to like $800-900 in that unit. And I guess he didn't bring out much money that day. So he bought that unit, but there was barely anything in there. So now they open up the next unit, which is the sister unit. Actually, they didn't tell us in advance. It's a 10x20. It's packed. You see nothing but slot car tracks and Star Wars and G.I. Joe and just packed. Like I got the Command ship when it came out from the Republic, which I sold on eBay as the cheapest price, like $299.
And everything's mint in box.
Everything is mint in box, brand new. I had like 15 of that ship, and I put them at $299 because back then my daughter was just born. Money was a little bit tighter, and it was the cheapest. I sold all 15 overnight. Okay, so like $4,500.
But that's how you also learn about Amazon. So you can get more money on Amazon.
Yeah, but Amazon's a pain in the ass to deal with as a seller. They got really bad. Yeah. So that's a whole nother story. So they open up this unit, and I'm not going to let him buy the unit. So he's like, well, that's my second half, because there used to be a rule. If you buy the first half, you get the second half. It's like a courtesy thing. I'm like, yeah, that's your second half. Like, that was my office chair. You're just going to let me have. So I buy a unit for like $2,100. That same unit in today's market, I would pay $10,000, $12,000 for, no hesitation. And it probably would bring that. And it was just packed with Star Wars. He was so mad. And like, he was working with my brother a little bit. My brother started working for another one. And he had me call me just to let me know it's war now. Like, okay, go ahead. It's like, I can afford it. I think I told him, it's like, yeah, I'll just make like $25,000 in this unit. I got plenty of money. Don't worry about it. And, but, actually, I used to like the guy just until he did me wrong like that. And he started getting really cocky about it. And I just don't like it. So, but yeah, that unit I paid $2,100. And like, I sold the stuff fast at cheap prices, like cheapest on eBay. And we still.
Yeah, on eBay.
Yeah, we still.
You could have gotten almost double on.
Well, I could have gotten more on eBay.
Know.
I could have gotten more on eBay too, but I was at the lowest price. But still, in that unit, we made like within 30 days, like $25,000, $30,000 or so. We made a lot.
But then that's how we learned about Amazon.
Yeah, and just getting top dollar. But sometimes, when you have less of a bankroll, you just flip it fast, buy more deals.
Mm-hmm. That's called the fast dollar rather than the slow dime.
Yeah, now I go for the slow dime because it doesn't matter when it sells. But if I can sell a card for $600 now or $800 in 2 months, I'd rather sell it $800 for 2 months. It's free money.
Yeah.
25%. I can't get that interest anywhere else.
Right.
So I'm looking over questions again, and I'm going to kind of put my own spin on the questions. Do you have a team that researches eBay and purchases low to sell high?
No.
From eBay or online sites, or is it everything you buy that you sell? You're not looking. No, go ahead.
Most of the research I do, and nobody else does the buying besides me because I control our money. So and you also have to have certain knowledge, and a lot of people try.
Unless you go on an auction run and I go on an auction.
Yeah, so Casey will go to auction, just buy it, but like once
that's if there's like 2 or 3 auctions running simultaneously, then he'll go buy and I'll go buy.
Or also in the past, when there were previews and we saw pictures and stuff, or I just tell, okay, buy these lots, this is how much you go. Or a certain unit, she knows the looks that we're looking for. But like, do I have my people buy at the store? No, I do all the buying. There's a lot of people that try to pull moves to you. It actually happened today to me. I had a guy that I actually know. And, of course, I'm an asshole for saying it. That's his reaction. But he wanted me to buy this guitar that was signed by all Eagles members. And first he sent me a message 2 weeks ago. Hey, Rene, $5,000. And I'm like, well, it's not worth that much more anyway. But I had no interest, so I didn't even say nothing. And that's kind of like, I don't talk to that person very much through another friend. He kind of did him wrong a little bit. So I'm like, not interested. So today he sent me a message. And he's like, $3,500, you can make some money. So he just dropped it $1,500. So I look at it a little bit closer, and the certificate is from like one of those BS certificates. The company is certified by JSA Professional Services. Now, there's a JSA authentication out there, which is totally legit and one of the best in the business. But these guys are playing off their name and call it JSA Professional, which is very different, So I look at that. Then on the certificate, it also has a website on it. So I'm like, okay, let me type in the website. Because I'm always saying, hey, there's new stuff. I can always learn new things, So I type in the website. That website doesn't exist anymore, and that website sells T-shirts now. That's not a good sign for a certificate of authenticity. The names that the people sign, the professional graders and stuff, are always very common names, John Jones, like names that if you Google, you get 1 million hits. Then it also had an appraisal from Lieberman. Now, Lieberman Appraisal is probably in every city in the world, their own Lieberman company. So, again, you cannot research, you cannot find anything with it. And then I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm not interested. I think that certificate is bogus. Unless you have a PSA certification or a true JSA certification or Steiner or Heritage, I'm just not interested, especially for that money because there's very little room. And he got all mad at me, and he was like, "Oh, thank you very much," and blah blah blah, and like, "Thanks, bro," and like it get really offensive. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I just let it go at that, So that's why I do the buying. So if you don't know what you're looking for, there's people that will try to scam you,
Yeah, Rene has a good expert eye and vast knowledge. I wish I could open up his brain and see all the knowledge that he knows about everything. He knows a little bit about everything.
It's just I've been doing this forever, so I almost got 30 years into it, and I know what to look for. And people will get mad at you sometimes. You're like, "Hey, I'm 95% sure this is a fake." Well, you don't know what you're looking at. I'm like, "Okay, well, just sell it." Well, I need money now. I'm like, can't help you. It's fake. I don't want it. He's like, people offer me stuff like, I'll take $1,000. I'm like, look, I think it's so bad. If you told me right now I could have it for $100, I still wouldn't buy it. And he's like, well, you don't know what you're looking at. I'm like, okay. It's like, I know I got $1,000 in the pocket. I know what that's like, and I'd rather just keep that than your item. And sometimes people get mad, but, don't ask me if you can't handle the truth, Simple as that.
I mean, that's a great point. You get a lot of people that get pissed off at you when they come into your store and they're like, I'd like to sell this to you. We've spoken before, and I think it's worth $500. You're telling me it's worth $25. Do they wig out and just lunge, or?
Sometimes not too much. A lot of people respect, but every now and then we do get those people like today with that guitar. But it's usually other dealers or people that need money. They think something is worth something, and it's not. And like people come in to me.
They're coming in with their wishful thinking. Yeah,
they come in hoping they make money. Or I got somebody come in, like, hey, this is worth $1,000. I'll let you make $50. Give me $950. You let me make $50? I'm like, funny. It's like, okay, it's okay. And then I explain it because I always try to educate people. So I'm like, okay, let's say I buy this for $950. I got to pay business license to be here. I got to pay the space it's going to sit. I got to pay the employee to handle it. I got to do I still make $50? And they say, well, you have your store anyway. I'm like, yeah, but I think about that on every item. I usually have to double and triple my money on items unless they're super rare items. Now, you bring me framed Upper Deck certified Jordan jerseys. Yeah, I'll work on a much smaller percentage, but I still have to make profit. And then the biggest confusion, and people don't get mad because usually when I educate them, then they kind of understand it. I'm like, just because somebody has something on eBay and it's asking $1,000, that doesn't mean it's worth $1,000. I go into sold sign.
You gotta look at completed.
And then I compare it. And with autographs, a lot of times they say, well, this Jordan sold for $2,500. And I'm like, yeah, this one sold for $300. And I say, well, it's worth $2,500. I'm like, no, that's an Upper Deck certified. That's what they signed, not authenticated. This is certified. This one right here is unknown, So it's a judgment call. But that's why there's a $2,200 difference. Now, you bring me the same item for Upper Deck certified and it sells for $2,500. I'll give you $1,500 because the reality is if I can go on eBay, buy it anytime for $2,500, I have to give my customer a little bit better deal. So I'll probably end up selling that thing for $2,200, $2,300. If it's really bad for some reason, $2,000. So if I can't make $500, why would I invest $1,500? I have to make money on my items too. And then I tell people, if you put it on eBay, now eBay and PayPal fees are a little bit less, okay? But the way we do it, we say no matter what we sell on eBay, we just put a cost of 20% for shipping, PayPal, eBay, maybe pay an employee to ship it, gas back and forth for the post office.
Yeah, employees me. I don't get a paycheck. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to be getting a paycheck?
Well, you have the pleasure of being married to it. See, that's God answering. And then also you got fraud on eBay. We all sell stuff where somebody sends us something back broken, or it breaks in shipping, or sometimes you just get ripped off. I had a chargeback. Not too much lately. eBay got really good on cracking that down. But there's always that fraud chance, okay? So I say whatever I sell, it just costs me 20%. If it ends up costing me 13%, great. Much better. But some items cost me more, some items cost me less. And then sometimes you also got to factor in that you make a bad decision, that you buy something, all of a sudden you learn, oh, this was fake, or we broke it. So I just say 20% to be safe. So I tell people to sell that on eBay. It's going to cost you 20%. So if you sell it for $2,500, your fee by the time you offer free shipping and everything, it's going to cost you $500. And then it's going to cost you time and everything else. But so some people listen to that, some people don't. But I get people coming in with really good stuff and they just want money and they don't care. They have good jobs, they have money. Like the guy with the 3 Dodgers balls. So I ended up giving him $1,100 for 2 Jackie Robinson balls, team signed balls, and Willie Mays ball. I told him, I was like, look, if you go get these certified, which I think I spent $600 to get them certified, I pay you more money, but you're taking a chance they're fake. He's like, no, he just wants to sell them as is. He's sure they're good. And I'm like, it's great that you're sure they're good, but I cannot tell my customer, hey, Joe, these are good because Kevin told me they're good. So I need you to pay me. I need top dollar. So I said, I'll pay $1,100 as is, good or bad. And I said, if they come out good, I'll make $2,000, $3,000, maybe $4,000. If they come out bad, I lost $1,100 because then the balls are worth $2 a piece. And I'm not going to cheat anybody and try to move them. I just say, hey, these are fake balls. I'll probably destroy them, to be honest. Or I put them on my mantle, so every time I look at them, I'm upset and learn to make better deals. But so we send them in. We spend, I think, $600 on grading plus the FedEx shipping. So I think my final number, I was into them $1,900. And we sold the better Jackie Robinson for $3,500. And I sold the other 2 balls for $2,000, so $5,500. So I almost tripled my money. But it was a high risk item. If they come back fake, total loss.
It was a high risk.
And I told the guy, send them into PSA. Anybody can send them in. If they come back from PSA, I'll give you $3,500 for the 3 balls. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted money now and did that. And he was happy. And he goes like, hey, I hope they come out good. I'm like, wait, what do you mean hope? You just said you were sure. He's like, well, you never know for sure. I'm like, oh, shit. So, they ended up being good, and it was a good deal for me. He was happy, I was happy. And I'm very honest with people. I tell them, it's like, look, if you take these certain steps, you can get this. I get a lot of older people selling me stuff, and I tell them, it's like, yes, this will eventually bring on eBay $1,000, but it might take me 6 months to sell, in order to get that money. Or you have to take these certain steps. And I tell them, this is what I pay. So that your options. You can try to sell yourself, get into the business, or you can wholesale it to me. We bought from one lady. We got videos on YouTube, and it's called Tool Store or Tool Hoarder. And we go out there in July, and her husband unfortunately passed away in his late 50s. He had a 7,000 square feet tool store where he squeezed everything in a 14,000 square feet store. 4,000 square feet store.
Well, you used to have 2 stores, and they squeezed one of the stores into the other store.
Yeah, so the second was more like a warehouse.
So what we're filming, you're seeing us climbing over piles and piles of tools to look into other rooms to film what's in there. Or just, we're filming it so we can take a better look to see what is it that we're paying for.
And I don't know if you noticed, but tools are extremely heavy. My crew hated me for like 2 months.
And dirty and greasy.
Yeah, so I look at this stuff, and she has another guy there that's an older guy. He's like, oh, that's like $250,000 worth of wholesale, like $300,000 to $400,000 retail. I'm like, maybe it is if I'm Harbor Freight, but if Harbor Freight sells the set for $50, guess what? I'm going to put $29.99 on it, and then we have sales, okay? So that's already half. And I'm like, I told the guy, this is super high labor and hard work, even harder on the trucks because you only can put so much in weight-wise. Otherwise, you break your trucks, and tools add up fast. He's like, well, that's your problem. And I'm like, yes, I know that's my problem. That's why I factored in what I'm willing to offer. And the real estate was worth like $1 million if it was clean and the lady wanted to sell it. So he said, you got to give her at least $100,000. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested. I offered $30,000. And he's like, oh, I can sell this any day for $100,000. I'm like, okay, well, thank you for having us. That's my offer. I don't even really want to buy it because I literally worked like a slave for like 2 months. All my employees were pissed off. We're like 5 guys working on it. I still have stuff that we haven't moved. I wholesaled at 10 by 20 with junk tools. And it wasn't just like all nice palletized with jacks. It was like you had to carry through rooms, and there's a pile of trashy converter air compressors and parts. And then there's like 500 brand new air tools, So we don't make the deal. She calls me back 6 months later. She's like, man, we took 1 load to the swap meet in the car. We made like $300. And it was a lot of work. And it's like, it wasn't even like 0.5% that we moved there. And she goes like, it's been sitting here. I have nobody wanting to buy it. People want to buy it on credit and stuff like this. And I want you to buy these tools. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? With that guy, it was a little bit hard to deal with. And to be honest, I don't know if I want to work this hard. He's like, no, he's gone. Like everything he said, nothing happened. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, I'm starting to film Storage Wars next week. She's like, please just come out, take a look again, make an offer. So I looked at it again, and there was a lot of stuff. And I told her, like, look, here's a problem. 6 months ago, I wasn't filming Storage Wars. It was a break. I was there to supervise everything. Now I got an extra worker that helps with the supervisor. That's some of the physical labor I would have done.
That's me.
I got to pay him.
I didn't get paid again.
She almost doesn't. She gets paid. Remember
I haven't
story?
received a paycheck all these years. I'm still waiting for that paycheck.
Technically, I've never received a paycheck except from original productions in A&E. So I told the lady, I'm like, you know what? This is still a lot of work and stuff. It's like, I'll give you $20,000. And she was like, what happened to $30,000? I'm like, that was 6 months ago when I had more time. I mean, now, I have to store it more. I'm busy. I'm filming Storage Wars. It's my main concern. And to be honest, it's a lot of work. My back hurts at the moment. And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, I know hard feelings. I'm sorry, but, this is just what I can do. So I left. She called me 5 minutes back later. She's like, just come back. Let's make the deal. because to her, it's a huge product and people don't put value in work and what you have to do, you know? And even then, like I had 5 guys working. It took us 2 months to figure it all out. And I wholesaled a few things to different guys. And,
so you can come to our store and buy tools. We have the best prices in town. We beat Harbor Freight, Home Depot.
Yeah, part of our store looks like Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
I have like every air tool you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, but you know, those deals are out there, and you just have to factor all that stuff in, you know. And your time is the most important. And you know,
and your back.
Buying truckloads of tools, that's a hard way to go. Let me just tell you. But we made it. We probably end up making $100,000 on the deal over a 3-year period.
All right, right on. I see a question here, and I know what it's referring to. You had a video game find, and the name Pat is mentioned.
Oh yeah, read it.
Put it up into that or no?
Yeah, why not? Go ahead. I have nothing to hide. Let's hide it.
A video game find, Pat kind of called BS, and
yeah, it's, you know what? We have a lot of doubters out there, and the number one thing is it's BS. It's not possible. These guys will tell you that stuff because they don't want you to do that stuff. They want you to work at Walmart for $8 an hour, and then they make the money. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are mad at me because I kind of put it out there and I tell people, hey, it's possible. If you're willing to do it and you're willing to do the work and you're willing to believe in yourself, you're going to do it. Now, if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. If Pat tells you it's impossible, fine, it's impossible. I give you a quick rundown of history why me and Pat don't like each other. Pat used to buy from us on a swap meet way back in the days, you know, way before Storage Wars, when we still did the swap meet. We haven't done the swap meet in about 7 years since we have our store. But we used to sell a lot there. I used to have 10 employees in the swap meet. We used to set up about 130 8-foot tables, set it up and take it down every day. We used to bring 2 24 trucks of fresh merchandise and a 14-foot truck of the setup and the leftover merchandise like CDs and video games. Pat was the kind of guy when video games weren't super hot yet, and he would bring us 5 video games, three John Maddens, which are worthless, you know, and Super Mario Kart. So he said, how much are these games? And I said, okay, $1, 25 on the Mario Kart, you know? And he would get mad because in his opinion was we shouldn't surcharge for that. He wants to get it for $1, and then once a year he does a gaming convention and he sells it for 25. But the truth of the matter is I sold all my Mario Karts immediately to other dealers because back then they were selling them for 30, 35. That was the key to the swap meet. Be cheaper than the dealers, but still good enough where all the dealers can buy everything. And Pat just hated that. He didn't like that we looked up stuff on eBay. There were a few young guys like him, so he hated me ever since. He insulted me a couple times in his YouTube videos, and he got a big following like with video game updates. And that's fine. So then, of course, when that story came out, he called bullshit and this is all set up and it's all fake because we have nothing else to do but put like $40,000 worth of video games in the unit. But I wish they would do it because I would make $40,000 every unit. That'd be great. But that's not what it is. And, you know, then they said, so Phil Braden, which is also known as the Fluffy Game on YouTube, he's like, it's set up because he was there. This is what happened. I'll tell you the true story. And it's just like it happened on the show. It was the very first episode of the new season. They open up this unit, and I look down, and I see an Atari on the left, which not a big deal. Then I see a Vectrex, a little bit rare. I'm like, why does he have that? I look to the right. I see a couple of Nintendo cartridges. I see a bunch of boxes, and everything is just thrown in. It looks really messy. But I do see some video game stuff and little 80s vintage stuff, and I see like a little handheld. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to go in this unit and take a chance. And I buy the unit for $1,700. And I call Casey afterwards. I'm like, I either just got a bunch of video games or got a complete tweaker unit, which I'm going to be hating life. Because I bought plenty of those too. So don't get me wrong. Where you just work your ass off. And by the time it's all said and done, you lost $2,000, you know? So we buy this unit. And I'm like excited because I just spent $1,700. Could be total loss because this is no pride of ownership at all. Just thrown in. So there's 2 or 3 boxes on the top right, and I tell the producers, normally the way it works in Storage Wars, we lock it, and then we'll come back and we go through the unit. They don't want us to look at anything because they want all the reactions to be genuine and fresh for the show, you know? So we're not actors, it's reality TV. So we open this door, and I'm like, I just got to look at this box. And I'm pulling out the first box, I'm opening up the lid, the whole thing is full of Nintendo games. I'm like, wow. I get the second box, and now the producer's starting to get mad at me. I open it up, it's like Sega Genesis and different systems. I open up the third box, and it's like a whole line of Atari 5200 games. And they're like, we got to get all this on video. We got to get up. And I got like people around me. Like, filming Storage Wars takes about 35 people. Everybody's looking. Everybody in that thing is kind of like in video games. Our main executive producer, Roman, he's super excited because he collects Genesis. But he collects it just to play with his sons. It's like a whole box of Genesis. Everybody's kind of like really into it. But it's like, okay, you got to put this in there. You got to put this in there. It's like, we need to get everything natural. So we put the stuff back in, and I'm telling them, like, okay, well, we got to film the excavation. Sometimes we do it the next day because we film till into the night. You know, when there's more people, it just takes long hours to film this stuff. And I said, hey, I want to film this the next day. I don't want this stuff sitting here. I want to get a truck. I want to get it out of there. Because I just those 3 boxes, I see like $2,000-$3,000. I called my friend Philip, Fluffy Gamer. He's a good friend of mine. He's a huge Storage Wars fan. And I told him, if there's ever an opportunity for me to get you in Storage Wars, I get you in Storage Wars. He's a fun guy. He's a good guy. He's been a good customer. It's just a good friend. So I'm like, why don't you come hang out? So I call him that night. I'm like, hey, I bought this unit. There's some video game stuff in it. I know for sure that's like 3 boxes of video game. We're already talking about this might be a longer excavation. We'll put the appraisal in there. Why don't you come on camera and you can tell me some of the value in the games, you know? Which I know the value is too, but we always want to have a professional there. So totally expecting I find the 3 boxes, maybe a couple more boxes. That's it, you know? I was already shocked with 3 boxes of cartridges. And so we go to, I'm telling you, man, Joe, every box we pull out of there is somehow video game related. I got, I'll show you something really cool. Let's see if I have it. Do you have any video gamers on? Are you a video gamer?
Well, yeah.
You are? Okay, let me see. Okay, let me finish the story, and then you can ask Casey a question. I'll show you like an unbelievable piece. There's articles written about, but nobody's ever seen one, supposedly. But I have one. Actually, here's another piece. Hold on 1 second. In my dungeon. Okay. It's been sitting here actually ever since we bought the unit. Oh, here. Okay, awesome.
Oh, well, let me give a solo. Get the hell out of here.
See what it says underneath Pac-Man?
What does it say?
Prototype.
Whoa.
That is sick. Is that for the 2600?
This is for the Atari 400 to 800. So it's been sitting there forever. And there's arguments on websites if this is a true prototype or if somebody redid it. There's a couple of these out there. I've seen them sell as high as $1,000. I said some people say it's not worth it. I never saw it. This is the first time I pulled it off that shelf in the year. But I got something else which is even cooler. I'm going to see if I can see it really quick when I'm done with the story. So we basically just put it on every box, and every box is literally filled with video game stuff. I mean, we find Sega Saturn stuff. We find Sega Genesis. I got like probably 1,000 Atari games, including rare stuff that's like from Atari itself, stuff that they used to develop games. The all games for Atari I have ColecoVision 5200, 7800, Atari XE systems, Panasonic 3DO, Atari Jaguar, Atari CD, Jaguar CD player, Dreamcast, like everything you mentioned I pretty much have. And what happened, this guy in the 90s, he must have gone around and buy video games because you see Goodwill stickers and Salvation Armies. And he was smart enough to tell the difference between the games that are super common and the stuff that he doesn't find as often. And he bought a lot of copies of the stuff that's medium to more rare. And for some reason, he just stored it there. I don't know if he had a business at one time and something happened. But, you know, when he put it in there, it definitely didn't have the value that it has now because, like, a lot of the stuff was just thrown in. The other half was all VHS movies, which we didn't even show, and then toys from the 80s, but loose toys. But, you know, on the show, we said $40,000 worth of video game. It probably ended up being more. And Fluffy was there because I knew those 3 boxes were there, but those 3 boxes probably turned into 60 or 70 boxes. Oh, did I just lose you? Hello? Live? We lost Joe.
No, you didn't lose me.
Oh, we got you? Okay, my screen changed.
No.
Yeah, and you know, then Pat, of course, came out and said, oh, Atari games are only worth $1 a piece. I'm like, great, I'll show you like 200 titles I have. If I can buy them at from you at $1 a piece, I'll take all you got, many copies you want to. And then, you know, then we called him out on Facebook. We said, okay, you say it's worth $1 a piece. And I still haven't gone through his Atari games. I actually still have them. And I need to do a video on that too. And, Sega Master System. I had almost every game for the system. In box with instruction. One guy from Oregon spent with me over $20,000. And he bought all the Sega Master System stuff.
He ordered it.
Yeah, so we just did videos, and I sent him the video first, and he's like, he's a guy who's very wealthy, successful. He has a YouTube channel too, but he didn't want to get it out there. He bought a lot of stuff. And he just said, I'll take this, I'll take that, I'll take that, I'll take that. He bought every Sega Saturn game I put out so far, every Sega CD game. Super good customer, super happy. He wants to buy a lot of his Atari stuff as soon as I make the video. We actually talked about this prototype too, so I forgot about it until we just now talked about it. And
come on, bring it up to the camera again, Rene. Bring it up to the camera.
Bring it up to the camera again?
Yeah, please. That is sweet.
Yeah. So and then Pat said, all these Atari games are $1 a piece. So I told him, I was like, hey, no hard feelings, no aggressive, nothing. Come to my store. We're going to do a YouTube video together. We can even do a YouTube live if you want to. And we just hold up every Atari game, and you tell me if it's a $1 game or not. Because I separated them a shelf. I got about 1,000 games. Probably, and you barely could see them on the show because we just kept on finding so much more. We later found Bubble 2, which I don't think was ever even on the show. There's a couple of really rare Nintendo games that never made the show because we just kept on finding them later. I still got about 30 boxes from the deal I never even went through yet, so who knows what else I find. Because I just get busy with other deals. And I said, come to YouTube. We'll do a YouTube live, and we'll hold up every game, and I just want you to tell me if it's a $1 game or not. Because I have several $100 games. I sold Texas. The only Atari game I sold from that lot so far, because a guy came in, he saw in the video, was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I sold that for $110, which was a good deal for the guy, and about $109 more than Pat said it should be worth. So, but, one thing I learned in this business, especially being on television, you're going to get haters. Number one, if you look at Pat's videos, as soon as he added the word Storage Wars, they get about 5 times as many views as his other videos. His videos average about, 20, 30,000, some of them 40,000. Hot Topics a little bit more. He does Storage Wars, 120,000 views. So I get it. And haters will be haters. If you watch his channel, I actually like his channel because there's a lot of good information, but almost everything regarding to the hobby is usually negative. He doesn't think anybody should sell anything. There should be no markets. He should make all the money. Haters will be haters. There's nothing you can do. And
did you write that song?
I should write a song. And in my situation, being on television, I can literally take $1 million and donate it. And there's going to be people that will make hate comments because I donated to the wrong charity or at the wrong time or because I'm fat. So it's like you can haters will be haters. Nothing I can do. So, and he just goes in the hater category, and he told people it's fake, and if he thinks it's fake, but there's a lot of people that bought it in my store. In the meanwhile, we have at least 10 videos from the find. There's a video out there with the Sega Master System where we say from the video game Find from Storage, where we show every Sega Master System game, and we have a video with Sega CD and Nintendo, and we show all that stuff. And he says, "Oh, you priced them way too high," but you know what? Like any of the good games, any of the rare stuff, everything is sold. The only stuff I haven't sold is either some common stuff, or yes, and I know Missile Command Atari is a $1 game. I get that, but I didn't say that was worth more than that. And some of the stuff I just haven't priced yet. So you got to talk to Casey for a second. I'm going to see if I can show you something super rare. It's a handheld that anybody that collects handheld. If I show it, I was going to do a special video with it. It's going to blow your mind. So you talk to him.
Okay.
Nothing mean about me, okay?
Okay, I'll try.
All right, thank you.
All right, Casey, let's talk all the dirt about Rene right now.
All right, what do you want to know?
I kid.
Can you buy?
Yeah, I got to see.
Sorry, it's just a tight squeeze because of my chair.
Don't look at my butt.
I know. I'm like, are your underwear shirt? Okay.
Plumber's crack? No. So, Casey, what do you have going on?
Work. So what does my life consist of? The store, but that's why we only have one child, because all of our employees have become my other children, regardless of how old they are. And if they're older than me, somehow they become my children. And I'm like, the business just took over, so it kind of became the other child. And then we work a lot, and then my number one priority is being a mom. So that's my number one job. Yeah, so we have a daughter who just turned 12, and she comes first, so that's a big priority. That takes up a lot of time.
Sure. So what's your favorite part of the show or doing what you guys do?
My favorite part of the show is definitely hanging out with Rene, because then, and it's fun just driving all the way up to LA. It's a pain in the butt driving to LA, but it's always fun driving with Rene because we can sit in the car all the way up there and all the way back and never run out of stuff to talk about. 14 years later being married. So that's a good part. And then I like being with Dan and Laura, and it's exciting buying, the adrenaline, you get a good rush out of buying killer units.
I just dropped a whole bunch of trading cards on the floor, but the good news is that's a storm trading cards, which are worthless. Okay, stand up for a second so I can get back in here. This is usually a one-seater. We just made room for two. And as you can tell, everywhere. I thought I couldn't find it, but I found it last second. So I'm like, oh man, I'm going to look like a jerk. Pat is going to be like, Rene goes on a show, talks about his rare item, doesn't even have it. So there's this item in the community. There's people that collect handhelds, which is Game Gear, Game Boy, Lynx, those systems. And there's one website, he's like, that's all he writes about, and I probably can find the link. And he talks about certain handhelds. There used to be another magazine, a Nintendo gaming magazine. I forgot exactly what it was called, but it was the Nintendo game. And they talk about this machine that was being made in China, supposedly really low numbers, but it was before the Game Boy. And you could take a regular Nintendo NES Entertainment System cartridge and play it on a handheld in a full-color screen. Doesn't sound like a big deal now, but back then it was a really big deal. The thing is called the Top Guy. It has Chinese writings on it. And the guy who is like an expert in the handheld stuff, he talks about the Top Guy. And in the reference that he makes to the Top Guy, he says, so he shows the link to the Nintendo magazine. He's like, I've never seen one eBay, been looking for it. He says finding a Top Guy, you probably have a better chance of finding a Jedi, because it's rumored to be out there. There was an article in the Nintendo Entertainment System, but you cannot find any trace of it ever being sold in the United States. You can never find anyone used anywhere. And this guy goes to retro gaming shows everywhere, searches everything. Guess what we found in the storage unit? By the way, we built this just to be fake. No, I'm kidding. So, you see this?
Get the hell out of here.
This is the top guy. Here's the slot big enough for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I'm going to put it up slow. I don't know if you guys can read that, because it's kind of a weird font.
Yeah, it is a weird font.
Yeah, so the yellow is the Top Guy, and the red is, I think it's Chinese writing. And also, so now how you can authenticate this, in the Nintendo magazine article, they actually showed pictures of it. So it's the exact same thing. I was going to make a video of it. I'm still looking for some parts. So it comes with Nintendo in the back. And I think you could actually watch television on this too. It had a really advanced screen at the time. What I haven't found in the back, I'm missing the cartridge for the batteries. If you can't see it, just tell me. I can see it. Yeah, the battery holder. Yeah, so this is super slider, so it has different connections. You can turn the LCD screen off.
I'm so glad you said that. If you died, I'd totally be like, trash.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's missing pieces, but
yeah, that's why, because it's missing pieces.
It's just a super rare piece of gaming history, and like it's never been sold. So what's the value of it too? So
how do you determine it?
You don't. I mean, it's a Chinese. Basically, it's an unlicensed Chinese for Nintendo handheld. But in the community, they say this was one of the first ones. And because Nintendo Magazine actually wrote about it at one time, there was an article, and they're not even sure if it was an article or a paid type of story. It has a lot of history, and then like people are referring to it as like, well, you can get it. So if you want to have like a handheld collection that really knock people's socks off, yes, a handheld TurboGrafx is really cool, but anybody can buy that for $300-400, Or another game that was in there, which I sold to my Oregon friend, and I think we sold it for $150, was so for the game Raiden, the shooting game. Okay, well, it was never released on the Atari Lynx, but we had a prototype.
Wow.
And it was a special version made for CES. They were showing the Lynx so they were showing the Raiden that was supposed to come out on Lynx for CES and never came out. We had the prototype cartridge on that. It was written on the prototype, and we sold that to him for like $150. Lynx stuff is not as high as valuable as other stuff, If you find a rare Nintendo prototype, you can talk 5 figures for certain ones, depending if it's ever been released or not. So, but yeah, if you're into gaming history, this is like a super rare piece. I probably will have a better video coming on the channel where we'll do some close-ups. I don't know if I'll find the rest of it, so I might just have to do it as is. I totally wanted to film it where we actually play it, but we'll see. I don't know what's happened, but yeah, just another piece from that unit, and that unit was just full with like rare pieces like that. The guy just bought pieces that just weren't common. I almost have every system in a Japanese version and an American version. That was a good unit. That was a good way to start the season. But Pat said it was fake, and he's just a hater. I swear in my daughter's life there was nothing fake about that unit.
And the best part is Fluffy got to be on the show.
Yeah, Fluffy got, and so that's the reason he was there, because I said, hey, I think there's going to be a few boxes of video gaming, and him and me didn't know that probably in reality television that video gaming would just make history for video gaming on a reality show, and that find was so hard. I think that's going to be very hard to be duplicated in that kind of quantity.
You just don't see it.
You don't. Absolutely. I'm looking over a couple of more questions, and
you know what? I'll give you another one. That stuff is out there. I got another guy contacted me from Ohio. And do you remember who the company was who made the Game Gear? I almost want to say Galoob. Galoob, that's what it was, wasn't it? Remember the Game Gear you could put on your Nintendo games and you could cheat?
Yeah, Game Shark.
Game Shark, that's it. Yeah, Game Shark.
Yeah.
And I think the company Galoob. So this guy called me out of Ohio, and he said he has 3 50-foot trailers. When Galoob went out of business, he bought a whole bunch of their inventory, and he has a bunch of the Galoob toys, which most of them are not worth that much. But he said he has about 1,000 Game Sharks for the Nintendo Entertainment System, brand new in box, factory seal boxes. And he wanted to sell all 3 trailers at once, but he didn't want to give me a price over the phone. So I was like, I'm not going to fly all the way out to Ohio to take a look at that. If you don't give me a rough idea where you want to be. And I just never really followed up that much with the call.
That was like last year, I think.
Yeah, a year ago, 2 years ago. So the stuff is out there. You just have to find it. I can tell you so many times in collectible hobbies and stuff like this, where like super rare items get found, and all of a sudden, I used to be really big in casino chip collecting, and I bought this Sans Aerodie. Aerodie is a type of mold, Sans is the casino, and I paid $10 for it. It was super rough condition, but still, it was worth about $10,000. I called my best friend at the time, which is also published a price guide for casino collectibles, and I told him that I bought that chip, and he got all mad at me. He's like started cursing at me at the phone, and I'm like, "Why are you so mad?" And the chip was unknown before. We know that it was made from old order sheets, but none has ever been found in the hobbies. Like, we know it was made, just none ever survived because it was only used for a couple of weeks because there was an issue between the Sands and the Desert Inn with the logo, because the Sands put a cactus on that chip where the Desert Inn said, hey, the cactus is our logo. And, back in those days, it was all mafia related. So that chip was in play for less than 2 weeks. And $5 version, which was already a higher denomination back then. And so we knew they were ordered, but none was ever seen. And he got really mad at me because the week before he bought from a lady at one in mint condition out of Iowa. Her husband and her went to the Sands grand opening, and they went so much gambling they took one $5 chip home. And that was that rare chip. And he thought I was messing with him or trying to badmouth the chip because all of a sudden 2 of them are being found. Now his was absolute mint, mine was super rough. Probably a 2 out of a 10 grading scale. His was probably a 9 out of a 10. So he was mad at me. He thought I was trying to damage the value of his chip, kind of saying, oh, they're being found, But it was poor coincidence that literally with 1 week, 2 of these chips showed up that people have been looking for the last 30 years. So it happened. I can tell you so many stories in different hobbies where it happens. The stuff is out there. You just got to put the work out there. Go find it. If you find it, it's out there.
You need a show on this alone. The rarities, the collectibles, the whole 9 yards. Holy crap! A buddy of mine, Mike, if offered, would you consider filming a TV series at your own store?
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that we're talking about with our own show. The store would be the base, so Bargain Hunter thrift store, and then the way it would encompass would be obviously me and Casey, and then a lot of people like Tatiana, and then I'm sure you guys see my crazy dad, which probably could be a show by himself, So, and then
one thing your dad and I have in common. I'm sorry, this usually isn't shown on air, but one thing your dad and I have in common is.
Oh my God.
No, that's good. Are you a musician too?
I'm sorry?
Are you a musician also?
I am not. I'm a fan of musicians, though. But yeah, I figured this is a good time to bring out the hair since you brought up your dad.
No, I'm normal to that. I mean, I grew up with that. You know, like I can tell you stories of famous rock stars where people would go crazy if they see him, and they just would hang out at a house every day. You know, Pat Travis, Kevin DeBro, Quiet Riot. You know, just like crazy stuff. Where to me they were just like, I started learning slowly in high school when the rock chicks, they kind of knew that who was hanging at the house. All of a sudden, they all wanted to come over. You know, so. I started becoming a lot better looking with those connections. But, you know, I actually appreciate...
And I'm not a rock chick.
Yeah, I appreciate more now as an older age when I look at some of the history. And I'm like, well, that was just Uncle Kevin, you know, or that's Uncle Pat. And I'm like, oh, this guy did all of this, you know. James Quill Smith played with Three Dog Night, John Mayall, you know. Rolling Stones, what top 100 guitar players used to roadie for that guy, and I mean, like all this crazy stuff. When we were really little, we helped roading on a concert they did in the James Quill Smith band, and they were opening for Molly Hatchet, you know, and then we were all hanging out with them and all kinds of crazy stories. Yeah, so Molly Hatchet's pretty hard, but it's funny when we were hanging out with them. That was past the whiskey days, and they had the wives and kids, and instead of seeing whiskey, you would see like milk and cookies, you know. So he's like super hard rough songs that they go back. He's like, hey, come on, Ray, let's get some cookies. Yeah. It's just like if I tell these stories, like people say, he's full of it. They don't believe it, but those are true stories, you know. So, you know, James Quill Smith, a lot of people probably don't recognize his name, but he was famous in Europe. He's the guy that supposedly died on stage and John Mayall recovered. He's also the guy that replaced Eric Clapton playing for Billy Joel. And Billy Joel said, I'm pretty sure it was Billy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Billy Joel, but he said he's the best guitar player he's ever played with besides Eric Clapton. So He also played in Three Dog Night, and I mean all kinds. I can mention all kinds of names, but I feel stupid when I do it because it had nothing to do with my achievement. It's just people that my dad, you know, Leslie West, Ansley Dunbar, which is a super famous drummer, if you know drummers. So played with almost everybody. Pretty cool stuff. So. Yeah, I have a crazy life.
Yeah, it's the first time I took my hair down in the show in quite a while. So,
yeah, it's getting a little awkward.
Try to keep it all nice and neat for the show, but occasionally it has to come down.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I'm not going to comment on your hair, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, I'll save the vanity for you guys.
Oh. I think my hair is longer than Casey's.
Yeah.
I'm like jealous. I'm envious.
So do we have any more questions?
I'm looking, and I'm looking at questions that I can't necessarily ask. So I think we're going to be wrapping it up shortly.
You can ask any question. I don't care. I've heard it all.
There's some that will make me blush, and I'm not even a sailor, so yeah, I think we're going to be wrapping up shortly. Rene, Casey, where can we find you guys on social media?
Oh, everywhere. So our bargain hunters for me on Twitter and Instagram. Casey has C Bargain Hunters for Twitter. Then we have on Facebook, we got Rene and Casey Nezhoda fan club, Storage Wars fan club. And then we have Bargain Hunter Thrift Store, which is our business page. You see a lot of merchandise there. Then I have a personal page, but it just got filled up with friends. So we started a public figure page, just Rene Nezhoda. And then the best one, which is probably the most fun, is our YouTube page, which is Bargain Hunter Thrift. All you have to type in on YouTube search is Storage Wars Rene or Storage Wars Casey, and you'll start seeing our channel along with the A&E stuff. So that's our main social media for now.
Yeah, and if you happen to be in the area, don't forget to stop by.
Yeah, the
store.
We're at the store all the time.
Yeah, 12845 Poway Road in Poway, which is the suburb of San Diego.
Right on. And Storage Wars, the new season starts on Wednesday, 10 p.m. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wednesday
night.
10 p.m. on A&E.
Season 12 about to start. Woo!
And can we expect anything differently from you guys on the show?
We're not that many episodes.
Or
We can't talk that much. So this season, we only doing a few episodes. They trying to bring a lot of new cast in. But so Casey will be on an episode with me. My dad is coming for an episode, which is always interesting. And then I bring Tatiana to a show, which I always have a good time with. And then this very first episode that's going to air at 10 p.m. Like I said, this one was filmed a while ago, but me and Jared get into it a little bit. It's Brandy's birthday, and we don't get along very well anyway. But they are trying to influence me, and that's just not going to happen. So you have to tune in and watch it. But as far as I remember, and I never get to see the final cut, you know, how to edit and what they're willing to show, but things do get a little bit heated. So
nice.
You gotta stay tuned.
Yeah, it might be interesting.
Absolutely. One more time, if we may, your social media.
Twitter and Instagram for me is R Bargain Hunters. The letter R, Bargain Hunters. Twitter for Casey is C Bargain Hunters. Then we have several pages on Facebook on the Rene and Casey Nezhoda fan club, Bargain Hunter Thrift Store, and then the most important, our YouTube channel, which is Bargain Hunters Thrift. And we share a lot of knowledge. We share finds, all kinds of good times.
That is awesome. We had a blast tonight. I appreciate everybody that joined us, and you guys especially with the questions. It was a blast. Until next time, if you guys go on to season 13, please come back. We'd love to have you. And other than that, everybody have a great evening. If you guys can join me for one moment after I end this, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you.
Yeah.